I want to thank everybody for all the support through 2022. Rough year, your first year on YouTube, you really don't know what to expect. And man, have we got a few events that really shows what YouTube is. So anyway, I have learned a lot, and it's all because of you all. So I'm really having a good time. There is news finally for 2023. We had the doldrums of 2022 starting in November. Really nothing happening in the photography world. We argued with each other quite a bit of what we speculate, and everybody talked about the 2022 year, what Nikon brought to the table, Canon, Sony, and everything else. We did a little stream talking about boom or bust. You guys weighed in. It's really interesting to see how everybody else perceives what went on in 2022. So, yeah, we're going to get with it today. So we're back to speculation, ladies and gentlemen. And again, welcome to the show. Anybody that would like to be on, just send me an email and I will send you the link. I'm checking right now. Let's see. Anybody? Nope. All right. Okay, so what's new? What's happened in just the last 24 hours? It's been pretty it had been real quiet. There had been no rumors, no talk about what's happening. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, Nikon Rumors gets a rumor of the 85 1.2. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if you haven't seen it, check it out. I've got it posted over on Nikon Amateurs page on Facebook. You're welcome to go over there and look and check it out. Canon. Evidently, Canon, there's speculation Canon has another camera coming out in 2023. I guess right now the speculation is it's going to be a vlogging camera, but hey, vloggers need love too. So, you know, Nikon provided that this year or last year with the Z30. It looks like Canon may be dropping, and I may be completely wrong here. I'm just going off the speculation that I've heard. And if you guys want to know more about that, you can check it out over on Ordinary Filmmaker. Simon does a good job of keeping up with what's coming out in all the brands, not just Canon. Sony did just drop the A7R5. I mean, that's been within the last few weeks. It's already in people's hands. Everybody seems to like the camera, so, you know, that's a good thing. Panasonic. How about you Panasonic fans out there? The S5 II. I was just reading up on that before I started the stream. It's an interesting looking camera. I know there are a lot of Panasonic fans out there, specifically for, it seems, for video here in the last year or so. And the S5 II looks like it's going to please a lot of people. There are some limitations, but the big news is Panasonic has gone to phase detect autofocus. And I know that's got to make everybody happy because everybody was saying that's all it needed. That's all Panasonic needed to do. So if you are a Panasonic shooter, I'm sure you're happy with the latest drop. It's already on B&H. I think it's $1997.99. $2,000 for a full frame camera, and it has some pretty nice video specs in it. Again, it has a few limitations, but nothing that can't be overcome. But it looks like it's going to be an interesting camera as well. So we've got a lot going on. I mean, Fuji's been busy in 2022. Don't know what to expect from Fuji in 2023. But hey, if you've been waiting on cameras and something to happen, it seems that we finally have broken the ice. Even Nikon with a leak, and Nikon Rumors has picked it up on the 85 1.2. Interesting. And on the screen behind me here, you see this Ricky. I don't know how to say his name. I asked him once in a live stream, and he said, call me David. So maybe that's what I ought to do. But we are up and running, finally getting some news of things happening. And we expected that. I just saw Photography Discourse dropped a video this morning talking about what he thinks about Nikon coming up here in the future. And speaking of future, we've got CES kicks off tomorrow. For those of you that were expecting something from Nikon at CES, I don't think we're going to hear anything other than them talking about their way ahead for into 2030. And I can't remember what they're calling it, but I think that's all you're going to see at CES from Nikon. They're talking about not talking about the imaging division, but the medical and robotic division is my expectation, and where it's heading and where Nikon wants to go with that into all the way into 2030. They're already looking at 2030 for at least those divisions. Robotics looks like it's going to be really interesting coming out of Nikon. Can't wait to see what they do. CP Plus coming up February 2nd. If we're going to hear anything from Nikon, I think that's where we're going to hear it at CP Plus. I know that Vahagan had talked about it. He and I had talked about, a Z8 in a glass case at CES would be a fantastic marketing blitz. I would agree with that, but I don't think we're going to see it. Nikon, I don't think will drop a camera under a glass case without any explanation or any information. Well, what I'm saying is without any marketing beforehand. So we'll have to wait and see. Oh, let's see. Okay, it's just me in here today, folks, so it may be a little slower or a little drier. I always like the banner going on with the panel. It always keeps everything nice and fresh. But let me go back here and acknowledge everybody. James, J-Rod Photo Art. All right, good to see you. Ted, ATR Bear. Yaman, good evening. Hero Shots. Yep, finally got a notification. All right, great, man. I'm glad. Maybe YouTube's finally recognizing that we have a community over here and will push the thumbnails a little more. Panasonic shooters will not need to speculate. Absolutely, Yaman. Hello, Alan. How you doing? Alan from Kent. Darren Francis, how you doing? Martin Hild, good evening. Wiesbaden. Oh, man. Wiesbaden. Ray Powell, good afternoon from Berwick upon Tweed. I love that, man. I got to come up with something for the house here. We need that in America. That's just, I like that. Jeff and Leslie, how you doing, folks? Glad to see you in here. Alan Barnes, Chris, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce your last name. I am terrible with that. But thanks for jumping in here with us today. Kevin H., Fel M., I am Hassan, Lumix for the win. Grits up. All right. Still waiting on the 2 to 600? Yeah, I know, Hero. I know. Let's see. Roy Bigsby, my sidekick. I guess he's taking a breather tonight being his time. You're going to just sit back and enjoy the show. You know, Roy, you're always welcome in here. Anybody is. As I always say, you guys want to be on the show? Just send me an email and I will reply with a link. Albert Jimenez. All right. The launch of Panasonic's S5 II camera is critical for the photography industry at the moment, since it will undoubtedly increase competition and maybe result in higher and lower consumer prices. Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand they have the S5 II and they also list an S5 IIX. So what's the difference, if anybody knows out there? And that's the S5, I think, is the first launch. And like I said, it's already up on over on B&H. If you want to go check out the specs there, you can do that. But the S5X or S5 IIX, I don't understand what that model is. Yeah, a lot of cameras now, J-Rod, you're right. A lot of cameras, Yep, a lot of cameras at the top now with best autofocus, and that's where we need to be. That needs to be across the board, and we can get past the autofocus arguments and everything else and start talking about what we're doing with the cameras. I know a lot of people want to do that. Chris, the 35 1.2, I have no idea. Obviously, Nikon rumors hadn't heard anything, but I would expect if we're seeing the 85 1.2, and let's just say that this is a credible rumor, and we should hear something from Nikon before too long, like in the next couple of weeks, I would hope. Maybe there will be an announcement about the 35 1.2, or at least a a hint about the 35-1.2. And as Heroes already said, the 2-600 that everybody, and I say everybody, so many people have been waiting for. And look, I'm tired of telephotos too. I can't afford half of them. They are fantastic lenses, but I do believe that we need to hear about the 2-600 here soon. So everybody that's waiting on that, I'm with you. Not a lens that I'm going to buy, by the way, but I know that a lot of people are waiting for that lens. Let's see. Yes, CES is consumer electronics, which is why I wouldn't expect to hear much about camera bodies or anything else. It doesn't mean there couldn't be, well, I'm sure Nikon will have all their accoutrement of camera bodies and lenses on display, but I don't think that that's what they're pushing at CES since it is consumer electronics. They're looking at their medical equipment and also their robotics division. I mean, that is something that works into consumer electronics into 2030, and that's their goal. And for those of you that don't know, Nikon has launched a new series, Nikon Sessions by Richie, and I mentioned a little bit earlier there. The first episode was about music photography. It's actually pretty daggone good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it. So anybody that's talking about or thinking about music photography, I would say jump over there and watch Nikon Sessions episode number 1, music photography. Well, even if you're not into music photography, it's still a pretty good episode. I enjoyed it. Yes, but cam stuff gets announced at CES. Yeah, but I just don't see Nikon doing that. If you go to Nikon USA, you can read all about their whatever it is planned for moving into 2030 and how they're going to help with AI as well to help people out with, I don't know what. Maybe that's the robotic side of it. You know, the AI and robotics being able to, what? I don't know. Go check it out. It was boring. I got to tell you, didn't enjoy it. I read through some of it and then finally said, well, nothing here, folks. Move on. Yeah, I'm with you, Roy. I hope for those that shoot 35 millimeter, they're a fan of that focal length. I hope that Nikon does announce that as well here soon. But the 85 is what I've been waiting for. I want that 85 1.2. Now the question is, am I going to be able to afford it? Because I'm also putting money away for a camera, which is the big draw. I mean, everybody's waiting for the announcement. What's Nikon going to do to fill out the line or the lineup? We have the Z9, of course, but we don't have anything under it. So that's the big question. What comes next? Z8, Z6 III, Z7 III. And I got to tell you, my druthers, if they could do 2 cameras at once, and this will lead us into another question: how many cameras can Nikon produce this year? But if they could drop 2 at once, I would like to see the Z8 and the Z6 III, because if Nikon goes the route of putting a 61 megapixel sensor in the Z8, I don't know if I'm going to be so apt to pick that camera body up, at least not right away. But a very strong hybrid with great video specs, and of course the new autofocus that Nikon has developed, and a Z6 III really kind of interests me. So we'll see what they do. Thanks for the subscription, Chris. Appreciate that. For those of you that haven't subscribed, I wish you would. Let's continue to build this community. It seems Nikon just did a reconsolidation on subscriptions. At least this is what we think happened, because in one day I dropped another 5 subscriptions. But after talking to Vahagan and a couple of other folks, it seems like everybody had that happen. I mean, depending on how large your channel is to how many subscriptions you dropped. But Nikon, YouTube may be looking at IP addresses and how many channels or whatever, YouTube channels you have or whatever. I don't know. You guys are smarter than I am. You can let me know what you think. Let's see. Darren Francis. He says he's got to send his Z6 II back. It stopped recognizing his SD cards. Yeah, I don't imagine you are happy with Nikon today, Darren. I would agree. We need to start a petition for the 2 to 600. Well, we'll continue to harp on it. You know, we always do. Every stream, somewhere in the stream, we're going to talk about the 2 to 600 for a minute. So I'm with you, Hero. We'll keep ranting about it, because that is definitely a lens that they need to get out. You know, this I'm hoping will be the year of other than wildlife and birds. No offense to you people, but man, you had a banner year last year in 2022. Well, most had a banner year. I know everybody's still waiting for a smaller body with the new AF in it, and I'm sure we're going to see that pretty soon. I don't know when, but maybe in this first quarter. So I expect this year to be portraits, wedding photographers, all those that do everything other than sports and wildlife and birds. So no offense to you people, but you had a great year last year. Let's let the other side of the house have a good year this year. Chris talking about the 35, 12, 50, or 35 1.2, 50 1.2, and 85 1.2. Yeah, that'd be a stellar lineup, wouldn't it? And a lot of people are still talking about, 1.4. I don't think we're going to see 1.4 too much. I think we're going to see 1.8s and 1.2s. And there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. But others are thinking maybe at 1.4, I still get this wonderful bokeh, wonderful rendition of out of focus area, and it's going to be cheaper. I don't know if it would be or wouldn't be. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think 1.2 is going to be well, what am I trying to say? Because an S lens is supposedly a professional lens, and I think all the S lenses are professional lenses. So what does that make the 1.2? Is that the golden S lens? I don't know. But the 1.2s, I think, are going to be a big hit. The 50 already is. I'm just not a 50 millimeter fan, even though I have the 51.8. But I really want that 85 1.8. I mean, that's just a studio lens for me. And I hope it's better than the 1.4G. I don't like that lens. I didn't like the 85 1.4. I don't know why. Well, one, it was extremely slow focusing. But anyway, 1.2, I think, is the way that Nikon's heading. So I don't know if we'll see any 1.4s or not. There is a possibility maybe a 1.4. I mean, that's stretching it. But, for another, for a 135, I know a lot of people have talked about 135 millimeter. I don't know if I'd be happy with that or not. You guys let me know how you feel about it. But it's just too long for me to use in a studio environment. And if I'm going to be outside, well, I don't know. What do you guys think? Hey, good. How you doing? Good to see you in here. Okay, here we go with the pronunciation. I'm going to try this, Chris. Lakavana. Lakavanaja. I don't know. Man, I'm trying, brother. I'm trying. I sure don't want to embarrass you about going any further, but that's my take. Lakavanaja. I don't know how close I am. Darren Francis, is Arthur coming today? I hope not. I mean, he needs to do some thinking about how he interacts with people. So hopefully that won't be the case. And if it gets out of hand anymore, there won't be any more. There won't be any more warnings. I mean, we just can't have that. If you can't figure it out after 2 or 3 times, then it's just, sorry, you can't be part of the community. S5 2X. Oh, the S5 2X is going to have Apple ProRes. Okay. All right. So I guess it's going to have a premium price on it, on that body. When I say premium, I don't mean extraordinarily high, but $200 or $300 or $400 more, maybe. I don't know. All right. One thing that I did see about the Panasonic S5 was that you would be able to record to a external SSD through USB-C. Am I correct on that, Yaman? You probably read more than I have. That's the one thing everybody keeps asking Nikon to do, and I'm sure same thing in the Canon camp, Sony camp. Let us use the USB-C port to record directly to portable SSDs. Man, wouldn't that make a big difference? That would be great. Oh, okay. Yeah, difference is Apple ProRes RAW internal, RAW over HDMI 5.8K ProRes, wireless, wired IP streaming. Wow. I'll tell you what, man, it's going to be interesting as people get this in their hands. I think I saw one person that had a chance to get their hands on it. I haven't watched it yet, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. And again, folks, this is what I keep talking about. If you don't want video in a camera body, well, first of all, that's not going to happen. At least I don't think it will anytime soon. But you must accept the fact that video is a big deal now, and we've got to expect it in these bodies and video capabilities. You look at how strongly they're being marketed, and look at what's going on. So I'm sorry, Nikon fans that just have always shot, came from film, grumpily moved over to DSLR, and they're only still shooters. At least Nikon has left the stills capabilities and continued to build on that in the DSLR and in the mirrorless camera. But you're going to get, there are people that are going to be looking for the video specs as well. So that's just the way it is in the camera world today. Here we go. Welcome, Mr. Roy. How you doing, Roy?
I'm good.
What time is it
by
there?
yourself? I thought I'd join in.
Yeah, great. What time is it there now?
It's 4:20 a.m.
You are a trick, I'll tell you, Roy. Man, when do you sleep, sir?
It's going to be cold today. It's only going to reach 75 Fahrenheit today.
Only 75.
That's cold.
That's frigid.
It's been 30. What is it? What's the equivalent?
We'd be going swimming here today if it was 75.
Oh, we're not used to it. It's just over 100 degrees the last couple of days.
Wow, man.
Then it's 75.
Summer down under. So you're going to enjoy the day at being a bit cooler, I guess.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for jumping in here, Roy. So Phil says he thinks the reason for the telephotos was the World Cup. I think it may have had something to do with it, but I mean, I think Nikon's plan was just to go straight full on telephoto, super telephoto, and everything else. And maybe it was to show what they can do in the telephoto realm with the TCs and everything else. Obviously we had the World Cup, and it was convenient that they did this or had this on the plate at the same time. But, and I could have expected, I could probably expect that even more if it was the Olympics. I mean, the Olympics are the premier for camera companies to get all their new products, lenses, and everything else out there. All right. But
soccer's pretty important in Europe and that.
No, you're right.
I play soccer pretty much.
I don't want to minimize it. I really don't. But I think it was it was coincidental, and Nikon was hell bent to get the telephoto, the wildlife and birding community because I think they wanted to match it with the Z9, with the new Z9 AF capabilities, recording capabilities. They wanted all the telephotos out. And we've had enough. I've had enough rants about that. Where's the love for the rest of us? And they've done a pretty good job. So I'm not going to rant as much about Nikon right now until they fail me again. And that's right.
They're doing okay. I wouldn't complain.
guys, I'm going down the list here, trying to keep up.
Where's Jeffrey these days?
Jeffrey is, he's just taking a break.
Alligators got him?
Huh?
The alligators got him?
Yeah. He just put a video out, but he's going to take his time now, I think, and just relax a little bit. And, you know, my hat's off to Jeffrey. I'm very appreciative of the fact that he joined so many live streams. And I know it was difficult because everybody has things to do. And look, anybody in here understands that we don't have many live streams. We have marathon live streams, and it takes so much time out of your life. So I'm just extremely happy that he joined as much as he did. He'll be back. Looking to see if anybody else had asked to join. Nope.
No,
All right. All right.
That last session was quite long, wasn't it?
Yeah. That was a record I'd never intended, but man, did it become a record. Yeah.
I bet you didn't expect that one.
No, I didn't. And I don't know how we'll ever beat that. I mean, almost 7 hours. Are you kidding me? Man. Long Rider. Good to see you. Rot von Rat. Rot von Rat. How you doing? Mr. Long Rider.
The new Sony.
Not me, Long Rider. Again, like I said the other day, I'm a weirdo.
Cameras get old and outdated. Glasses forever.
That's the reason I got to keep buying cameras. They get old.
Yeah, but the glass goes on.
It does. It does. And we had that conversation the other day talking about if I was beginning right now, I would jump into the DSLR market and buy all professional gear on the super cheap right now. I mean, you can be a starting photographer and have pro gear going to your first gig, whatever it is that you're shooting, and relatively cheap. That's in the Nikon camp. I'm sorry?
A mirror is not that big a deal either.
Yeah.
Having a mirror in the camera is no big deal. I miss this extra display in the viewfinder though.
Yeah.
DSLRs are better at flash still, unfortunately.
Well, that was my case early on. And again, though, I found out that it's my fault because I have an outdated flash controller that needs a firmware update, and I still haven't tried to do that. Yeah, 24 to 200. I've heard a lot of people talk about that. What do you guys think? The 24 to 200, James says, is a great lens, which is one of the things pros hate to hear. They hate to hear that what they will call a kit lens or, you know, a super cheap lens can be good.
I think it's a good carry around lens, but I think I prefer the 24 to 120. I haven't got it yet, but I've got the 24 to 70 f4 and 2.8s.
Yeah.
I wish I got the 24 to 120 instead of the 24 to 70 f4. It wasn't available then.
Yeah. Z6 III with 33 megapixel sensor, Z9 trickle down AF features would be interesting. And add to that 10-bit 422 internal, and that camera is a killer. That camera will be a killer.
Yes. Very underrated camera.
Mm-hmm. It will be a killer. Every guy that wants, you know, looking for video in Nikon, just like my stepson, he fell in love with the Z9, the video capability in the Z9. I mean, but it's a $6,000 camera in the end. Well, more than that by the time you add all the other things you need. But that Z6 III, I'm sure you would be interested in. I still believe it'll fall under $2,500, the Z6 III. Let's hope that's the case. That's why I'm interested in it. I'd be as interested in that as I am in the Z8 if the Z8 isn't what I think it's going to be. And if it isn't, so be it.
I'm more interested in Z8 or
Mm-hmm.
Z1.
Yep. Z1.
I still can't get over the changing their way of naming cameras.
Yeah.
Throws me.
That's why when Vahagen brought that up, it is a valid a discussion. You know, why? Why would you start with a 9 for the flagship cameras?
I've had a good whinge about it too. I don't understand it. You got F2, F3, up to F6, and you got D1, D2, D3, D4, D5, D6, and Z9.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
Screws with my mind.
It's crazy. Oh man. And who knows, a Z8? Maybe it won't be a Z8. You know, maybe they'll trick us. It'll be that'll have everybody scratching their head. Oh man. Let me see. Trying to get down here, following the comments here, folks. Let's see. 800 PF. Yeah. Well, there are some lenses, you're right, that have been announced and people are waiting for them and they haven't shown up. So that's a good point. In 2023, are we going to see more production of these lenses that, Nikon announced, actually delivered a few, and now you can't get your hands on them? And will that be the case for the 2 to 600? If it is, then it's going to give us plenty to rant about. That's for certain, because I was talking to Vahagen again. I know I say this all the time. We talk constantly. I was talking to him about, he was talking about, 3 cameras for Nikon for 2023. And I said, are you sure? And he's not certain. He wasn't saying he's guaranteeing that. Nikon couldn't produce 1 camera in 2022 other than the vlogging camera, the Z30. And now it was because of everybody gave a million excuses. Supply, production capability, blah, blah, blah. And now we expect them to come up with 3 in 1 year. Is it possible? What do you guys think? Can Nikon pull that off? And let's just say that there are no supply issues and parts are plentiful, to include sensors and processors. Can Nikon pull it off and deliver 3 bodies in 1 year? I don't know. I would like to think that they can, because, man, it would be a stellar year for Nikon to do that. And then guess what? There's the possibility that you would see a APS-C Pro body either this year or beginning 2024 for all those that are looking for that. Let's see.
Traveling's a pain these days. I don't want to go through an airport.
Oh, yeah.
Bad enough before COVID and all the terrorism getting through airports. And
yep. You are correct. So, Joe Dixon, I hope after this year Nikon camera releases are more updates instead of catch-ups. I think you're going to see that, Joe. I think Nikon delivered with the Z9 showing that they could leapfrog and jump ahead with some of the technology that they've developed. Of course, you're going to see that in all camera makers. But instead of just Nikon trying to patch or put a Band-Aid on a wound, that's the reason for the Z6 III and Z7 III and the Z8. Nikon has to come out. Nikon can't just catch up with the R5, if the Z8 is going to be the competitor in that space. And using the R5 specs to identify what that space is, Nikon can't just catch up to or deliver a camera that competes based on the current specs of the R5, because that's going to change. And Nikon needs to leap ahead just like everybody else and keep doing that. So I agree with you, Joe. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt right now. I think that the tech is in the house. It's just up to Nikon to get the bodies out. We'll see. But I still think that Z6 III with those specs that we talked about would be a killer camera. I think a lot of people would jump on that because let's face it, one of the reasons that people want the APS-C Pro body, it's not because it's an APS-C camera. It is and it isn't. I can shoot in crop mode on my Z9 and get almost the same thing. It's so equivalent to a 24 megapixel APS-C camera that there's really no difference shooting in crop mode. But I mean, the bottom line is an APS-C Pro body is going to be a whole lot cheaper than buying one of these expensive prosumer pro bodies, like a Z8, Z9, or even possibly a Z7 series.
And it should be rugged too.
Yeah.
A lot of the APS-Cs are not rugged.
Yeah, well, and that's what everybody wants. They want a pro build like the D500 was in an APS-C body. But I got to believe that the only reason that they're thinking that way is because of cost. Because you're going to get a relatively cheap, long reach camera in APS-C. You get that 1.5 crop. So it's that. Well, we're not going to go into the science of APS-C crop versus crop in a full frame camera, but the perceived effect of more reach. So,
even for video, APS-C is much more suitable for most video.
Yeah.
Than full frame, just by not having to bin the pixels or.
Well, the only problem with it is then, and when you're talking video, it's pretty specific for those that are really into video, and having the full frame lens lineup really supports, everything you want to do in video. Unless you had that full support in APS-C lenses, DX lenses, you're going to be, I shouldn't say struggling, but the constant value, focal length value of full frame lenses on an APS-C body. So
I don't like DX lenses. They're too much trouble for me.
Yeah.
I could see them go away quite easily. Or Tamron make them. Let Tamron make them all for Nikon.
Yeah.
It's a Nikon Tamrons.
Ray just said you can't have enough pictures of pigeons. Wildlife sports guys who have a pocket full of $100 bills to buy the Z9 and the super expensive primes had a good year. The rest of us still out of luck. I agree, Jeff. I agree.
It's not just, the 600's nice and the 400's nice, but they're not light lenses. The
right.
200, 600, if it's more like the 200, 500, would be much lighter and more usable. And the VR on that was brilliant.
Yeah. Hey, James, for me, I want a second body, full frame body. You know what? I'm not even going to buy. I am not interested in an APS-C body. That doesn't mean I don't want Nikon to make it. I do. I bought a D500 with the D5. And you know what? I very rarely use that camera because it just didn't suit my shooting at all. Not at all. It didn't hurt me, but it didn't help me in any way. And I just, I just very rarely took it out and shot with it. For you, I can understand that, shooting birds and things like that, or any other wildlife shooter. And again, I think going back to the fact that you're going to get that camera at a lot more reasonable cost than buying a pro body fast camera and just using it in crop mode. I agree with you.
So with DX lenses, if you move up, the lenses have to get sold and replaced, and DX lenses can work expensive doing that.
Yep. Checking again, make sure nobody's sending anything. Yes. I struggled to upgrade my Canon EF to RF and bought the EOS R7 APS-C in the meantime to see what I was supposed to have missed over time. That thought could live amongst Nikon people too, or doesn't it? Yeah. Well, again, I think going back to, I think the first of all, APS-C bodies are really a pro body, APS-C pro body. I don't think that's your typical APS-C
No.
shooter camera. And they may not even be happy with paying $2,000 for a Pro Body APS-C camera. However, somebody shooting full frame and shooting birds and wildlife and sports may be interested in APS-C because they already have glass and it's going to give them that, again, that extended reach. And we can go into the science of it again. You know, is it perceived? Is it real or whatever? I mean, the bottom line is no matter what, you're using the best part of the glass when you're shooting APS-C, an APS-C body on, you know, telephoto or super telephoto glass or any glass for that matter. But it's cheaper and, you know, it's a great companion for somebody that has a 1DX or a Canon R3 to have, you know, for you guys, the R7 just for that extra little bit of oomph. And the camera is built to pro specs. I mean, everything I understand about it. And it's cheap. And I think that's what appeals to so many full frame shooters that keep asking for the D500 like body from Nikon. You know, it's a whole lot cheaper to buy let's just say Nikon drops a Z90 Pro body, APS-C body. It's a whole lot cheaper to buy a Z9 and a Z90 than it is to buy two Z9s. I mean, you following me? I mean, that's
Yeah,
the
but
only.
no makers you can't take the full frame lenses and bung them on a crop camera. Some of them don't accept them.
Well,
Whereas Nikon, their lenses are interchangeable. You need to put the crop lenses on the full frame, and it'll just automatically crop.
yeah, it just automatically goes into crop mode. Yeah.
Most camera makers don't do that.
So, yeah, there's a big cry now. You know what? This just started a couple of months ago. There was no screaming, kicking, and everything about APS-C. I know that there were people that were probably interested in it, but when when Canon launched the R7, that's when the kicking and screaming came in the Nikon camp. And I thought Nikon would drop an APS-C body at that time. I thought maybe they had it. And when we heard rumors of an APS-C body coming, and it turns out to be the Z30, which is the R10 equivalent, I guess. And I expected Nikon.
That's got uses. That's got its place.
Yeah.
Just not as many.
Yeah.
There's no D500, is it? And neither is what they've got around now.
Yeah.
There's no D500. A rugged little camera that gets serious people into birding and sports and does its job very well. I used to use mine for video, but that's another matter.
Well, and that was in the Grays Westminster. Becky and Con were talking about that. Would there be a Z50 update or even a Z5 update this year? I don't know how Nikon can pull it all off. I really don't. And I got to tell you, I'd rather they concentrate on, again, getting the full frame bodies out and then let them sit and then just go crazy with everything else they want to build as far as APS-C bodies or updates to current models or whatever. And even the ZF or whatever they'll call it, you know, that's maybe stills only. I just don't see Nikon doing that, though. No. Again, I really don't.
They learned their lesson the first time with the DF.
Yeah. And I mean, the DF was a cool camera. A lot of people did buy it and enjoy it. I say a lot, not a lot, but now there's more of a craze for that than there was when it was introduced. And Nikon really went to big expense to actually announce that camera. If you remember all the teasers, and you couldn't tell what it was. You couldn't tell what the internals were. You had no idea. And they just kept teasing us with little bits and pieces. And there was so much speculation out there. And then I just don't think that it sold extremely well. Of course, there are people, there's a group of people that are going to buy it the minute it's announced, but that's a small group, I think. But who knows? You know what? Just let's get the lineup filled out. And then let's go crazy, Nikon, with all the other extreme cameras that you'd like to make. Oh, man.
But the DF was quite a good camera. It had a great sensor in it, just a
Yeah.
terrible AF system.
Yep.
A lot of people I know used it. A lot of forensic scientists and forensic photographers used it because of the dynamic range and had the D4 sensor. Very good camera.
Hey, Jeff, I don't mean that it's everybody, but I think that's a perception that a lot of people have. But I think more importantly, it's the cost. I really believe that that's the bigger part of the APS-C Pro body is the cost. You've got a Pro body built to take a licking. It is considered a Pro body by Nikon. That's what they did with the D500. And I'm not gonna go into, is it better to have a APS-C body and shoot with the effective resolution of that body or that sensor, or crop in a full frame sensor? I mean, we've been around and around and around on that, and to be honest with you, I don't think anybody can. I don't think anybody's right. I just don't think it matters. From everything that I've seen and all the arguments that I've heard about, it's so much better to have full resolution, of the sensor in the APS-C body than to crop a full frame sensor. So I don't know.
There's advantages both ways. So does it matter? Doesn't matter.
No. Eric says no. He says no point in retro digital camera, my opinion. The ZFC sold extremely well, I guess, for Nikon. A lot of people like it. It's a great little carry-around camera. But if you're talking about a retro style full frame, you may be right. I don't know.
Companies that like releasing nice film cameras again, which is a real surprise.
Yeah.
If you want retro, go that way.
Yep.
Deep pockets.
I want an M&M dispenser camera. Kind of a Pez design. Oh.
I've got one here somewhere.
Nancy, how you doing? I see you in there. There you go. Man, what don't you have?
I like collecting cameras and lenses and.
Oh. They should stop releasing so many cameras in a short time span so we can see any difference. I don't care. I don't care if they drop one a month. This is if we can't manage our own desires, money, and everything else, it's our fault. It's not a camera. They could drop one a week. It's up to us to decide where we stop buying. Not that they're going to do that, but I don't want one camera a year. I got to tell you right now, I don't want to go back to the film body days. One camera every 3-4 years.
I don't mind it. I can live with whatever they release. I'll just use whatever they release.
Well, I can, I can too, Roy, but I don't want to. It's one of those. I'd rather, just keep building cameras. Let us make a decision on when we're going to upgrade. Nancy, good to see you.
Any camera, as long as it does a job.
Yeah.
Well,
isn't that what we're left with? If that's what it comes down to, if Nikon and Canon and Sony and Panasonic and Fuji decide we're only going to release one camera a year, well, we may grumble, we may groan, but nobody's going to quit photography. We'll deal with what we have. But there's, nothing wrong with us continuing to complain about we want this, we want that. James talking about a lot of Lumix videos dropping. See, I started checking out some of this stuff. I want to see what's going on in the rest of the world. Since everybody was banging on me early on in my streaming career last year about, well, have you ever tried? Have you ever shot this? No, I haven't. I've shot nothing but Nikon. But now, yeah. Well, for Hagen, it's Nikon and or Nikon. Nikon. How's he saying it?
And Zed. speak English. It's confusing for us here because we get both sides.
There you go, Roy. Ray says he's seriously looking at a DF instead of going mirrorless. Well, you
Depends on
can't
what you
beat
need
that
it for.
sensor. A
It's a great
sensor in
sensor. The AF's
it,
not brilliant, and it's got no video, but it takes some very nice pictures and got great colours, great skin tones. Very good camera. Very underrated.
and Jeff, I understand that. I agree with you 100%. But at 45 megapixel, 61 megapixel, or even, well, I mean, that's what we're looking at now in full frame, right? 45 and up. So I don't know if there's that big a resolution drop in cropping. So you're right. If it's a 24 megapixel camera and you're going to shoot in cropped mode, yeah, you're back to the D700 days, about 10 or 11 megapixel. I know that it was 12, but I'm just saying in that range. So you're right about that. I agree.
That's still enough for most uses, though. It depends on what the end game is, what you need the pictures for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see you said that same thing right after that comment. Sorry. Phil says he'd buy a full frame ZF. And I know that there are people out there that will. I just think that sometimes we get caught up in our own little group because everybody says, yeah, I'd buy one too. I'd buy one too. And we got a group of 22 people. And we feel like, man, that's a majority. So many people would buy this camera. And I know we're a small slice here of the photography community, but I just don't think it adds up to the revenue that, like I said, it's one of those things. I think Nikon, once they get their feet on the ground with the mirrorless system, with all the new tech, I think then they may go into the world of let's play. Let's do a ZF like we did the DF. That is a possibility. I don't think it's something right now Nikon needs to be
retro
considered.
means anything to me. As long as it works, I don't care what it looks like.
Yeah.
I think the Nikon D5 was the last Nikon sensor that was in the pro bodies. The D6 has the Sony one. I think the D5 had very nice colours, and I was just talking about the comments, the chat.
Yeah, man.
If they made their own sensors again.
I had the D5. I love the D5.
I still do.
I don't because I can't because it's gone. I had to break that relationship with my D5, but I loved it. Somebody asked the other day, what's your favorite camera? And I think I said that. The D5 was actually one of my favorite cameras because it did everything I wanted to do. I mean, would I like to have had some more resolution with it? Yes, but it was a fantastic camera for what I did. I loved it. I think the D4, as far as color and just beautiful photos, which of course would be the DF as well because it's the same sensor. I think the D4 was beautiful.
Yeah.
It really was.
Nikon made their own sensors.
Yeah. Congratulations, Nancy. It's always nice to have that spare. Although with the Z9, the battery that EL18 does hold up extremely well.
Yeah, it does last longer.
Yeah.
But the D4 battery will last probably 2/3 as long.
Yeah.
And cost a lot less to replace.
Yeah. Well, didn't everything cost less?
I mean, today you can buy a new D4 battery, which is a 18B or 18A. They're much cheaper than the 18Cs and Ds.
Yep. I had plenty of 18s. I had 18A, 18Bs that I used. I think I still had the 18A from my D4 for some reason. I didn't sell it. I sold it with another battery, my D4.
I've got a few. Oh, basically a few. I don't like running out of batteries.
So let me ask you something. Do you rotate those
yes, I do.
Charge them? Do you?
Normally they're nicely organized on a charging table, and I use whatever one's due up next. But at the moment I'm in a mess still. after moving. I haven't got organised yet.
Okay.
Finally got all the lenses out the boxes though, most of them.
So my wife asked me, this has just been a few weeks ago. She asked me about that. She says, why are you always saying I got to go, you have to go charge batteries? I said, well, it's just for lifespan, you have to continue to let them discharge
Keep
and
them
then charge
charged.
them, or they won't accept a charge somewhere down the road. Lithium ion, I've had those fail me as well, but the old NiCad batteries were worthless. It was such a pain trying to keep them in some kind of life cycle. But yeah, I mean, everything I have takes batteries now. So,
Yeah, me
even,
too. It's a nightmare. They're all different.
yeah, they're all different. Exactly. So I have it set up this week. I'm going to do all the NPF batteries. Next week will be all the V mount batteries. And then the lighting, the batteries for the lights, they have to be
Yes.
rotated. It's just a pain.
If they get too low, they become useless. The batteries just die if they're uncharged.
Yeah. Eric, the Z30, as everybody will attest, I was not a happy camper when Nikon announced that's the camera that we were going to get last year. But I must say that I don't know if it's a flop or not. I think it's initially was selling pretty decent. I don't know what the sales are now. So you may be right. I mean, in the long run, it may be considered a big flop. I don't
I think its
think it
best
can.
use is
Yeah,
for
but
people
I
doing
don't think.
B-roll and that. They just take the lenses off their own cameras and put it on the Z30.
But Roy, I don't think it competed well with the Sony vlogging systems and the. Um, I
But
don't
if you're
know.
already running Nikons, you're going to want to put Nikons on your B-roll camera.
Well, true enough. True enough. But I think that's the target audience for it was Nikon shooters. You
Mm.
weren't going to gain any other people with it. And even then, it could have been a little bit cheaper. And I think we all said that when it was announced. It could have been another $200 cheaper.
Yeah, should have
And
been.
I think it would have done better as well. So I don't know. The jury's out on the Z30. I didn't want them to announce it at the time they did. I just thought it was bad timing. I don't think we needed the
They've got
shoot.
too many models. There's too many models out now.
Yeah.
I wish they'd just concentrate on certain models and drop a couple. Too many that are very similar.
Went out to shoot birds, and the deck was was washed away by recent storms. So disappointed. And the deck that was provided was washed away by. Gotcha. I need to learn how to read, Nancy.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'd be disappointed too. I hear you. Alan Barnes using this D4 battery as a secondary battery. I
Yeah,
have two. I have an
I do
A and a
too.
B. Yep, I have an A and a B too. I also bought an extra D, the new battery.
Hmm.
Um,
I got a couple of C's because the D wasn't available, and they can charge in camera like the D's, which is handy.
yeah, yeah. Hey, again, Jeff, understand 100%. You're absolutely right when it comes to the two there, D500, D5. D5 cropped is almost no resolution. You're right.
Hmm.
You're absolutely right. And again, though, I mean, you got a D5 like camera for what you wanted to do, and it was so much cheaper. And again, I think that's one of the things that I was thinking I would use it more. But I wound up using the D5 for more events and everything else. It wasn't shooting birds or wildlife, and it just kind of was
Hmm.
why do I have it? You know?
Yeah, I had the same problem with the D5. I went to the D850 and D500 paired
Yep.
together. Together, they made a nice pair, the D850 and D500.
And that's what I did, Roy. I was carrying my D850 and my D5 with me. I could carry two focal lengths and have the ability to capture high res in the D850, or for motion or speed or whatever, even at some of the events, I had the D5 ready to go with a longer lens. So, yeah.
I never used mine that much. It just didn't suit what I needed. I preferred the D850 and D500 to the D5.
Uh, See, I just fell in love with my D5. I don't know why. Sometimes you just can't explain. I don't know. But I loved how it rendered. I loved everything about it. Even, well, I tell you one thing I did like about it. I was using it for some of the training that I was doing, that I was giving for surveillance training. And you know what? You know, everybody talked about how terrible the ISO was. It was ridiculous because it had native, what, 2 million ISO? It
You
was
couldn't use that.
ridiculous. But you think you can't. You can't as a photographer. I couldn't as a photographer, but in the surveillance role that I was doing, believe it or not, I wasn't shooting at 2 million ISO, but 200,000, yes. And it made a big difference in what we were trying to do at the time. So it worked great for me. And then just carrying it around shooting events and things like that, of course, was something I really enjoyed. And Eric says that Nikon should go back and develop their own sensors. Yep.
Yes, that'd be good. I like the Nikon sensors better than the Sony ones.
Yep. Michael McDermott talking about Nikon D700 for life. Not me, buddy, but it was a good
Yeah,
camera.
but too old. It's a nice
Yeah.
camera, but it's too old.
Yeah.
I still got my D3s, and they're too old.
Yeah.
I want faster autofocus, and
Nancy's talking about she would buy the Z8 as a backup camera. I have a D810 at the local camera shop, trying to sell it, hanging on to my D4. Yeah, that D4 again. I'm just one of those people I have to sell to move on to the next. And I wish I could have kept it. I love the D4. Like I said, 16 megapixel was a very sweet spot for the sensor. And the color was just remarkable. Yep.
that one. I couldn't part with mine. Mine's done over 900,000 clicks now.
I think Verhagen has shot weddings as of, last year, even with his D4.
Nothing wrong with that. Perfect.
Yep.
Durable. Fast.
And Nancy, that's what we're waiting for. That's exactly what we're waiting for here in the next few weeks. We expect to hear something, some kind of rumor or something. Even if it's not the Z8, something coming from Nikon as far as a camera body. I believe it will be the Z8. Because
nice to
all rumors pointed to the Z8 was developed and ready to go. They were just waiting on sourcing parts or whatever. And then the Z9, I don't know. I think there was a big discussion that went on at Nikon. I think they were both in development at the same time. And Nikon chose to go with the premium flagship camera to say, here's who we are and everything. I mean, basically, in essence, to say this is what's coming below, here's the premiere and this is the tech that you're going to see in cameras that come after this. And
I had rumors about 4 years ago about the Z8 being about 45 megapixel EL18 battery, and all of a sudden they released the Z9 instead. I think that they just swapped over.
Yep, I do too. I really do. Because we had heard rumors about a Z8 or an idea of a Z8 before we even heard the rumors about the Z9. And I think Nikon shut that down when they went to the development announcement back in March of 2021 and said, hey, here's what we're developing. In essence, the Z9 will be, or whatever. We didn't have a lot of information, but they came out and at least gave us a development announcement. I think that's when they made their choice. That's going to be the next body.
All the descriptions of the Z8 were just like the Z9 anyway. It's just such a surprise it turned out to be the Z9.
Yep. That's why I believe that the Z8 will be the baby Z9. I know that this rubs on some people. It just kills some people. We're going to see. We're going to find out here pretty soon. In the next 3 months, there's going to be a lot of information that's going to drop, be it from Nikon itself or even through rumors. about what the next bodies are going to look like. And as soon as they announce one, then we're going to have a real good idea and be able to look at and determine exactly what let's say the Z8 is announced in a couple of months or in a month. We're going to be able to identify exactly what the Z7 III is going to be based on the Z8. And so guess what? If it's 49 or 47 megapixel, if it's the same sensor out of the Z9, then guess what? The Z7 III is going to be your high megapixel camera, high megapixel body. I don't know why they would want to put a super high megapixel sensor in a camera unless it's just going to be a slow, typical landscape portraiture camera body.
I don't know that why. Is the Z7 though. The Z7 series is aimed at that market more than anything.
That makes sense though, and I agree with you 100%. I do believe that that's the case for the Z7 series, is it will become that high megapixel body, and we're going to see. The Z8 is going to tell us pretty much everything we want to hear. They're not going to put a 61 megapixel sensor in the Z8. And then what do you do with the Z7? Leave it 45 megapixel, put a 61 megapixel sensor in it. I mean, where does the Z7 series go?
They're pushing it already with the 46 megapixels because you're losing dynamic range, anything beyond that, and you're losing so many other problems. Color saturation, all these things get compromised.
I don't know what you do with the Z7. You know, if you build a Z8 that's high megapixels, a little bit slower frame rate and things like that or whatever, then
and cheaper.
Yeah, and cheaper. Yeah. And then are bird shooters going to buy a Z8? I mean, who buys a Z8 if that's the case? I don't know. I say the Z8 is going to be a whole lot cheaper if they do that. To be honest, it's not going to be the R5 competitor. We'll see. I know a lot of people disagree with me. Mm-hmm.
I don't like to speculate because it gets your hopes up too much.
Oh, I do. I love getting my hopes up.
I'll get excited when they arrive on the shelves.
So Louis says his Ian EL18 battery lasts 1.5 to 2 days while shooting wildlife. Yeah,
it does. That's the good. People don't speak about that, but the Z9's got this fantastic battery in it. All my other mirrorless cameras, I've had to put a battery grip on just to keep up with it.
Yeah,
it makes a hell of a difference. That battery. Nothing worse than being halfway through a shoot and running out of battery life.
Phil asked, would you buy a grip or more batteries? I guess meaning instead of having them in the camera body with a grip on it, just changing batteries as you need to.
You can't do that during a shoot, though. Yeah, it's something you don't want to do. It doesn't look very professional. The grip is better, provided it's going to last the whole shoot.
Right.
And a grip, you can actually change the batteries while it's still running.
Usually. Yeah, you can hot swap. Yeah,
hot swap.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that if you've got one single battery.
That's just one of those decisions everybody has to make. You know, what do you want to do? If you want to keep the camera small and lighter and smaller, then you're just going to have to buy extra batteries and, when needed, when necessary, swap your batteries. But you can't do the hot swap.
I like the DA50 system where you got the 18 battery as a battery grip.
Yeah, and I think
best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think if the Z8 comes out, and it is what we think it's going to be, or at least what I think it's going to be, if they add a grip, which of course they will, I think that if they make that available to take a EL18 battery, that's going to be a big hit.
I don't see why they wouldn't, because the D850 did it, and that worked out very well.
Yep. That'll be a big hit. But you know what? The only reason you would do that, honestly, Roy, is if if it's going to be a high speed camera for
Yeah.
action and everything else. You wouldn't need that with a landscape camera or
No.
even a portrait camera. So,
You need a bigger battery to drive the big lenses and
yep,
get the faster frame rates.
yep. Hmm. Hmm. All right. Congrats, Sleek, out shooting a snowy owl. Cool. Hmm.
Yeah, I thought the D850 was probably the perfect size camera for me. I like the bigger ones too, but that's in just perfect.
So that's another question everybody has. Will Nikon redesign the body? Did they redesign the body for the Z8? Meaning not just the smaller Z6, Z7 series body, but maybe something in between, a full vertical grip body like a flagship and the Z7. Is there something in between? Is the Z8 going to be that camera?
Well, they've all got a similar layout for the buttons and that, so it's no big deal, I don't think.
Well, the one thing that you get, I guess you can do it, is if you build a bigger frame, is you may be able to have your primary battery be an EL18. I don't know,
Mm. Or
which is what everybody's hoping.
two 15s. That'd be just
Yep.
it's two swappable, hot swappable 15s would be handy.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on, they might do something clever.
Kaloon, we're just in here speculating, talking about there is some information now. There's some life in the camera community after the first of the year. We had slowed down so much in December. There just wasn't anything to talk about as far as what's coming or anything else. But now all of a sudden there is. The Nikon 85 1.2, supposedly, there's a photo of it over on Nikon Rumors. And so we can predict that we're going to hear something soon about that lens. And does that mean that we're going to hear about other lenses here in the near future? And what does it mean about the Z8 or for the Z8 or whatever camera Nikon's getting ready to? I say getting ready to launch as if they've told us, yeah, we're getting ready. I don't know that, but I expect that here in the next couple of months, we're going to get another camera body from Nikon. So that's what we've been talking about. But we also talked about the Panasonic, the S5 II, that was just launched, already available over on B&H. Looks like an exciting camera. Phase detect autofocus, first time in Panasonic. So is that going to really raise the hype on Panasonic? Because there already was hype from those that shoot Panasonic about the video and everything else. So is the phase detect autofocus going to just push it up another couple of notches? We'll see. And Canon, supposedly, there's a rumor, I guess, that Canon's looking at another body this year. Maybe not too far down the road, and I don't think it's the Canon R1. So that's what we've been talking about, and a few other things.
It's interesting everyone's going back to phase detect after mirrorless were all contrast detect AF.
Yeah,
It just seems to work better, doesn't it?
yeah.
The old DSLR had it right.
Oh, Nancy, it does. It does have 3D tracking.
And it works.
Mm-hmm.
D850's 3D tracking was terrible. And all the ones before it.
James, it is, buddy. It is.
You think you got a problem? Have a look at this pile.
Man. Yeah, as you get it organized, there's so much
It looks
more.
worse.
Yeah. Oh.
Didn't look so bad when it was all in boxes. C9's got very good 3D tracking. The cameras before it didn't.
Yeah, Eric, you're right, man. It seems like that vloggers
Yeah,
would
but
be happy, but they're not.
my Sony lenses are in a box somewhere still. The A7
Wow.
died, and I haven't used them since.
Oh, so Neth says, time to move to mirrorless, folks. It'll make your life so much easier. Can't remember the last time I picked up my D850. Yeah, it's, there's a, a passing of the torch taking
Mm.
place, but it's a little bit slow because there are a lot of people that still aren't, they're not, they're not ready to move to mirrorless for a lot of reasons, some sentimental and some physical reasons or whatever. But
Mm.
I, I think we're going to continue to see that happen. More and more people are going to eventually, well, of course they are. They're going to eventually go to mirrorless because Nikon, even though they won't admit it, I think they're out of the DSLR development market.
They are.
Even though they won't admit it, they may provide support for their DSLR bodies that are still out there, of course. Maybe that's how they're making that statement. We haven't given up on DSLR, but I don't think we're going to see another DSLR body developed by Nikon for the market. I think that's it. We're done. But
Yeah.
I'm with you. I sold both my D850s. As a matter of fact, Neth.
Also one. One.
And that probably killed you, didn't it?
It did.
Um,
Another one here somewhere. Oh, over there.
Eric says nothing wrong with keeping your DSLRs on the side for nostalgic purposes. That's absolutely true.
That's me.
That's absolutely true, Eric. And not just that. I mean, obviously, they're still,
Still workable.
yeah, they're still reliable cameras. I mean, still better even in some aspects when you talk to some people. So nothing wrong with DSLRs. And again, like I said, if I was somebody young and just jumping into, maybe I'm tired of shooting cell phone photos and I really want to get into photography and I'd really like to get into it with a big bang, man, I'd be out there searching the market and looking at all the used gear DSLRs that are out there. There's so much professional equipment on the market right now for sale, lenses as well. And you can get into a pro setup real cheap compared to what it cost us when we bought it new.
Mm. Surprisingly, some of the film cameras are becoming expensive again.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about picking up a couple, but they're too expensive for me now.
I think
Too cheap
that'll
to
last.
buy.
I think that'll last for a little while because there are people that get caught up in the nostalgia of it, that never shot film, and they hear a lot of people talking about film, and of course, it's going to drive the prices up. But I don't think it's going to last forever.
I don't want to shoot film again. I still get stains on my hands and that from the acid. Darker. It's not fun.
Chris talking about the D2H, the last LB cast.
Mm. D2X, if that counts. I think Nikon did a good job on the D2 because it was their last professional crop sensor in that area.
Yeah.
For the D500. I think they did a very good job on the T2. And they made a couple of very good cropped lenses back in those days. Like the 17 to 55 and that were brilliant lenses.
Yeah, that 17 to 55 was a fantastic lens, wasn't it? I had that for my, I was shooting what was I shooting? The 300S with the 17 to 55. Fantastic lens, I thought, for the time.
Yeah. They were making a lens for professionals on the crop sensors.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So they did a good job.
I almost bought that again after I bought my D500, and I hadn't owned it for, I don't know, that lens for 5 years or more. And when I got the D500, I kept thinking, why did I ever get rid of that lens? What a perfect lens for this D500.
Turns into about the equivalent of a 24 to 70.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Oh man. Greg Wilson says he has a problem with too much gear, not enough time to use it. No, I don't have that problem.
I do.
Well, I don't have the time to use it either, but that doesn't mean I want to give the gear up just because of that. Again, though,
Nice to
I
have
am
a
a
choice.
weirdo.
Nice to have a choice of gear, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It really is. And again, so many people will question you. Why do you have it if you're not using it? Well, I don't know if I ever want to. It's there. Some of the things that I have. I've tried to get away from buying things just to have it. I really have. I had to have that 402.8. Had to have it. And I did enjoy it for a little while. And then I thought, all right, that's fun, but this isn't what I really want to be shooting. So I've got the 402.8. It's the D version. So it's like a V8 block heavy lens. I mean, it is a boat angle.
Even the new ones are fairly heavy. The new 400-2.8,
Yeah,
and the 600-2.8 fours are still very heavy lenses.
Man, that thing is heavy. And I bought a series, 3 or 4? Series 4 Gitzo sticks tripod, and I've got a Wimberley 2 head. I mean, I got the whole thing, man. I got the whole setup, and you got to have a pickup truck to haul it around for you.
That's why I went for the 400-4.5, not because I couldn't afford the others, but because it's lighter and more practical.
Yeah, I mean, the setup that I have is extremely heavy. You and I had the D5 on it or the D850 with the battery grip, that I would be shooting. And man, it's a load. It's a load.
I don't think the size of the camera matters as much as the size of the lens. The lenses are very heavy.
Yeah. Yep. But I love what that lens does, though. It is incredibly beautiful. As old as it is, that's probably a 40-year-old lens.
It's a carry in your boot lens, not a carry in your back lens.
Yep. Nancy's talking about Nikon's has leaked a picture of the upcoming Z85 II. Yep. Long overdue, should be announced soon. Would you consider this a Absolutely, I would consider that a portrait lens. Absolutely. That's what I'm waiting for it for, Nancy. I want it for the studio. 105 millimeters is just a bit too long for me in my little studio. 85 would suit me well, that focal length. And if this lens is anything like that 51.2, I love what that lens does. It's magic. But I'm afraid it's going to cost as much as the Z8.
The 85's always been more expensive than the other lenses because it's a niche lens. It's for people like Verhagen that are event photographers that aren't allowed to use flash and on many occasions.
But,
flash.
Yeah. Well, people say, why would you buy it? You got to stop it. And I'm not stopping. If I buy a 1.2 lens, it's to use it wide open. I got news. That's exactly what I will do with that lens. Not necessarily in the studio. Obviously, it's a bit difficult in the studio at the distances you are to the subject. I understand it's razor blade thin depth of field. I get that. I know that. I know how to do that also. Moving the subject away from the lens, even wide open, will give you a whole lot more depth of field. So, but anyway, it's just a lens that I really love the focal length. I just didn't like the 1.4, the 85 1.4 G lens. I just didn't like that lens. It just rubbed me wrong.
I've got the old D lens still in the 85s, and I like that better.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work on the Z, so I haven't used it much.
And everybody's going to shoot whatever they want with as far as portraits go. There are a lot of people shooting 35 now for portraiture, and if you can make it work, that's great. Fine. Yep.
On a crop camera, it's even better.
Yep. Well, you're shooting in essence about a 50 something millimeter lens then.
Field of view.
Yep. Yeah, it does, Eric. It does. I think it's going to have a sexy price tag on it too. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I'm really worried about that because I don't know that I could, man, if that thing's 26, 27, $2,800, it's going to be hard for me to pull the trigger on it.
I think it'd be at least that.
Yeah, man. James, did anyone see the leaked picture on the 2-600 Z lens? Nope, no news. I hope we see something pretty soon. Oh man,
I've had the picture of the 85 1.2 on the computer for quite a while. They sent it from MPS.
Yeah.
Accidentally, I think.
Oh wow. G-Rod, no one cares about another bird lens. And that's exactly what it's for, James. You're absolutely right. There are more people that want the 2-600 than there are that'll ever buy the 600 TC or the 400 TC. You're absolutely right, because this is us. This is the community that we have. Sure, we have folks in here that are buying these high dollar lenses, and that's fantastic. I would too if I had that much liquid cash in my pocket. But the 2-600 is for all of us that can't afford these huge, expensive, super glass.
I can afford it. I've got the last model of the 600.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's quite a big lens. There's a lens hood.
Golly, yeah.
I can't pick it up. I need two hands. But it's such a big, heavy lens, and that's just a lens hood.
Yep.
The 600, and it's too big for many uses.
Yep.
I have to grab the 500 just because it's so much easier to handle.
No, I agree with that 100%. And I mean, if you're going to spend that kind of money, you're going to use that lens. I mean, unless I was just, again, rich and filthy rich and I could just buy it and let it sit on a shelf, because honestly, that's what it's going to do most of its life. I will use it, or I would use it. Most of his life is going to sit on the shelf. And that's why I say I'm not interested in the 2-600. I want that lens to come out because so many people are waiting for it. But I'm not interested in it because I know that there are certain lenses that I'm looking for, like the 85, that I know I'm going to use. I'm actually going to use those. And once I fill out my list of lenses that I want, that I know I'll shoot regularly, then I'll jump into something a little more exotic, if you want to call the 2-600 exotic. But I agree with you 100%, Roy. It's definitely going to be a whole lot easier to tramps around with it, and actually you're more apt to get it out without having to drag out, a heavy tripod and
a wheelbarrow to cart them around.
Yeah, if it's convenient, you'll use it. And I expect since we have the new Z mount and all the Z lenses are fantastic, I would expect this new 2-600 to be pretty phenomenal. Will it match the 600 F4? No, it won't. But
the 600 F4 is a fantastic lens. I love it. But the thing is, it's more important to get the image than it is to get a perfect image.
There you go. What else we got going on here? I'm gonna have to go to the little boy's room in a minute.
Yeah, I've got about a dozen or so bags at least. I just grab the one that fits whatever I want to carry at the time. It's
Todd,
the way of doing it.
Good to see Todd in here. Man, I'm so far behind. I know you guys are thinking, when is he ever going to catch up? Let's see. Had to jump off before, but I do believe that they could release a Z6 III at CES.
Possible.
I think anything is possible with Nikon right now because Nikon is so unpredictable. But I don't see it happening. I hope you're right. Actually, I hope that you had a dream and it comes to fruition, and we're going to see it in CES. I really do. Um, that would be fantastic, Daryl. I just don't think it's going to. I don't think Nikon's going to talk much about the imaging division as far as photo imaging. I think this is their chance to get on their save the planet crusade with their new 2030 vision. And anybody that hasn't checked it out, go over and check it out on Nikon USA, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And I think that's what CES is going to be full of as far as Nikon is concerned. Roy, you may have $1 million in old equipment.
Probably half that. Probably half that. I had the Apple One for a while till I sent it down the tip because no one wanted it. I was going to send it to the Computer History Museum.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was. So it went down the tip. I wish I hadn't done that.
Yet another video-centric camera released. Which one you talking about, Eric? I didn't. I had to skip over so many comments. Sorry about that. And of course, he asked, "Where are you, Nikon?" I did a whole video on that back in 2018. Nikon, where are you? When everybody else was, we just jumped into the mirrorless craze.
I went over to Sony's for the A7 when that came out, and that wasn't a good idea. Didn't last long. It played up and then it died. Didn't serve me well, the A7. They're probably better now, though, I hope.
Yeah, I think it's come a long way. I remember when the A7 came out, and I can't think. Philip Bloom was on the beach somewhere in UK at night, and I was absolutely blown away with the video at night by the A7. And he was talking about, what a dramatic change this is going to make in video. And I agree with him. And it's gotten better, of course. Eric, S5 does look pretty cool. I know that Panasonic folks have to be incredibly happy about it. I'm imagining it will sell extremely well for at least in the first couple of months. A lot of Panasonic loyalists out there. And the video out of Panasonic has been pretty stellar. I watch a few other channels, DSLR Video Shooter, for instance, and he's talked about Panasonic and what Panasonic needs to do, and it sounds like they've done it or begun to do it at least. James says he has a big shelf of nostalgia. Luis says he uses D7100 for macro. Wow, there you go. That's a great idea.
Nothing wrong with that. It's not the camera that matters, it's the lens when you're doing macro and close-ups.
I can't answer this question. I have not owned all those camera bodies. I own the D700, and that's it. I can't tell you how it compares to the D750 or D780. Even with the problems of the D750 that were just completely out of proportion by naysayers and influencers, the D750 was a fantastic camera from everything I hear.
Yeah,
and wedding photographers fell in love with that camera, the D750. And I think it had incredible dynamic range.
Did.
And I can't say anything about the D780. I don't know, but it's a shame Nikon didn't get that out sooner, because from those that own it, I've heard that it is a great camera.
I haven't used it enough to tell.
Yeah.
But I think Nikon was already moving over to mirrorless in those days, so I think they lost interest in it themselves. The 750 is a great camera. 700 is a great camera, but probably the 750s would be my choice.
Yeah. Just looking at the Just looking at the comments here, man, how far? Oh, I'm so far behind. It isn't even funny. All right, let me catch up. Half the people may have left, and I'm so far behind. I don't even know. Uh, AW1. I actually looked at those a while back, James. A
Yeah,
little all weather.
I nearly bought one just for something that's durable and go in water. And
Yep. Phil says he had D750. Dynamic range was amazing and image
it
quality
is,
too.
yeah,
Yep.
that's what I noticed.
A lot of people were when we went to mirrorless, or when Nikon jumped into the mirrorless boat. A lot of the D750 owners were talking about what is going to compare to the D750, because they were loyal shooters. And again, a lot of wedding and event shooters shooting a D750. I don't know
Yeah,
how. As a matter of fact, I remember the first year in mirrorless. Of course, Nikon got beat up pretty bad, and of course the single memory card that hurt, because your 750 shooters were just that. They were event and wedding photographers, it seemed, and I think that's what hurt them. Was the Z6 and Z7 were launched with one memory card, and they were all about I can't shoot that because I shoot weddings and events or whatever. So
you didn't
everybody,
realise that XQD was reliable in those days, though. You
yeah,
didn't trust it.
yeah.
Too
Well,
new, and everyone thought
well,
it's just
I
a
think
card.
people. You're right, but I think people were afraid, to buck the system again. I think it was a matter of, I can't go out there with one card. If somebody asks you, you're shooting with one card, you're not a professional. That's how the photo community is. And I got to tell you, a lot of times the photo community sucks. It's
D3's
terrible.
got one card. D2's
Yeah.
got one card. They're pretty reliable cameras.
When you start bowing to the community rather than just enjoying what you're doing, or having faith in what you're doing or whatever, you're just going down the wrong path. Again, and why do I shoot JPEG only? Only because it irritates the people that say you have to shoot for all. Because don't tell me what I have to do. And why hurt the photography community by telling people that? You know, you can't use this camera for weddings. It only has one card slot. Those of us that shot XQD, from the conception of XQD, the D4, which they
Yeah,
shipped a XQD card with the camera because you couldn't even
yeah.
get the, and I had nothing but great experience with XQD. So, but if you had never played with XQD, of course you were still thinking, well, uh,
What's this
about
stuff?
about CF cards that died regularly, and SD. I think I had more CF cards fail me than SD cards,
I
honestly.
did too. I'm still getting them fail.
So,
One failed the other day.
yeah. So I would understand why people would be concerned, but I'll tell you, once you started shooting with XQD, you realize, man, this is the card to have. And from that point forward, I would tell people, about my experience. I ran one through the washing machine, the dryer, and everything else worked fine. I'm not recommending you do that, but that just blew me away. And I had that card for the longest time. I actually wound up selling that card with the camera, just so the person that bought it had a card in it. Still working fine. Uh, Long Rider talking about the D780 says it looks like a real nice camera. Well, that was Nikon's kind of. They were in a
Yeah, Swan Song.
transition.
The
Yeah.
Swan Song.
Yep.
I'd probably get a D850 instead if I had the choice, because it's just a more rugged camera. I like rugged cameras.
David Stewart, good to see you, David. 750, great low light camera. Yeah, I think that's one of the things about it. That's why it was such a hit. But naysayers, especially some of the influencers, they want to continually bring the 750 up because of a problem, without even understanding how many D750s sold, how many D750s were out there shooting weddings and events. It's just amazing. And those that shot it, they were fanboys to the max of that camera. I say fanboys as if it's negative here. It's not. I mean, they love their D750s. Yeah, action and wildlife, Todd. Yeah, I agree. But I think that's what we're talking about. It was a wedding photographer's camera for sure. And I'm surprised I've never heard Vahagan talk about it. I'm gonna have to ask him about it, what he thought about it. But of course, he had plenty of cameras. It wasn't like he needed another model to shoot weddings and whatnot. Hey, D Moots, David, I hope you're doing well, man. I'm glad to see you had a good time with your trip and some fantastic owl photos. Or if Z Wade were here, he is here. There you go, Z Wade. Some beautiful pigeon photos that you got. How you doing, Zach? Good to see you, man. Yeah, Phil says we're talking about the D750. He says I might buy it again just because it was special to me. And those that shot it constantly and for work, they feel that way about it. That's a camera they want to have, kind of like baby shoes. You have them bronzed and put on the shelf. I want to get my D750 bronzed and put it on the shelf because of all the work that it did. No telling how much money no telling how much money that camera made.
It was full frame and it was a good camera. Whereas in those days, most people couldn't afford a full frame. You had to get a crop camera or nothing.
Yeah, and that's another thing. We lose sight of what we went through back in, so many years ago. And it's not that many years ago, just 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. We didn't have all the choices that we have now, and you're right. You were kind of forced. Here's a couple of choices you got to make. And I think cameras are becoming so much more rounded, meaning I can still have video and stills and, and AF and things like that. Maybe not to the extent of the flagship, but I can still have all those things in a camera body below the flagship now, where before you were giving up quite a bit. Once you left the flagship, there was a big step down to the next prosumer body. And then from there down to the just consumer bodies, there were some limitations. So now it's a little bit different. And Darren says he still uses a D750 in the net for hockey. Oh yeah. Z Wade had he had a pigeon shoot. Love you, Z. Love you, man. Oh. So Z Wade just recently, for those of you that don't know, if you check out his content, and there's a link in the thumbnail. If you just look down in the description, he has recently purchased a Canon EOS R5, and he's in the process of playing with it. So here's a Nikon shooter that's picked up a EOS R5, and I'm looking forward to see what you have to say about it, Zach, especially since we're on the verge of hearing something about the Z8, we hope. So it'll be interesting to see what you find and how it works out for you.
Interesting camera.
Yep.
I played with them, but I had trouble with the adapter that runs the old series lenses. It seemed to play up a lot. Seems to be a compatibility problem there for some reason. That might be just me.
Yeah. So, Hero, the Z6, was it horrible for wildlife or sports? No, it was not horrible. But the problem with it is so many other cameras were coming out. Sony was doing a fantastic job with AF, and so was Canon. And this fell a bit short of what they were doing, but it wasn't terrible.
Overall, it's a brilliant camera. Just the AF was a bit behind. It's
Yeah.
probably the Z6 has probably got better AF than the original Sony A7.
Yeah.
But compared to what was released at the same time, it wasn't as good.
Yeah, and at $800, it's a fantastic snag in my opinion. And with the firmware updates on the Z6, the AF definitely in video mode. There you go. The AF in video mode is fantastic. That's what
It
I'm on
is.
right now. I mean, that's what I stream with my Z6. And I mean, here you go. So, how bad is the AF? It's fantastic.
The first firmware wasn't brilliant, but it got much better over the years as they re-released firmware for it. Now it's a
Yeah,
very good camera.
that
The AF is quite good.
2.0. Yeah, that 2.0 update was fantastic, man. When I say fantastic, I mean considering where it was and where the firmware update took it, and it is my vlogging camera right now, or for the studio setup, and it does brilliantly. I mean, I don't have any complaints at all. I mean,
I
you
think
guys have any?
it's where the D750 was. It's an affordable full frame camera,
Yeah,
and that's where it is.
but now because I do so much ranting, it's not a camera to compete with where we are in the market right now.
No,
So I just want you to understand. And Nikon has the ability to fix that now. And we're hoping that they do in the cameras that come out next. But great camera overall for so many things. It's a fantastic camera. Yeah, and I love it for what I'm using it for, and to take it out and actually just for photos as well. And
the AF isn't as bad as they make out. It's quite respectable.
yep.
It's not as good as a Z9, but what is?
Yeah, there you go. And I think that's what we get caught up in. And Nikon is poised to produce the next line of cameras with this AF, and we can get past the AF once they do that. Thank goodness. Let's get away from it. And
I'd
then
rather have lights on the buttons than a new AF.
yeah,
Make more for me. Things like lit buttons is a godsend on the Z9 and D850s and that.
yep. All right. So I've got to go to the little boys' room. I also have to empty my bucket. For those of you that don't know, it's not that we don't have
Is that the
indoor
same
plumbing.
thing?
Huh?
Is that the same thing?
that's why I said it's not that we don't have indoor plumbing here. It's that the plumbing that I do have is leaking in the basement. So
It's
I'm
coming
waiting.
indoors.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a plumber. I know you guys get tired of this. I keep telling you about leaks and whatever. Now you know my battle. That's why I can't. That's why I haven't loaded all the new photos that you guys have sent in. By the way, I've received a bunch of them. I understand you haven't got a response yet because I haven't put them into the folder, but now I'm going to do that. I'll be doing that tomorrow to get caught up. And a lot of people have sent in photos. I appreciate that.
Okay, go find one.
Well, there you go. I will throw this in there because I've heard so many good things about the D610 too. Even the D600, I know about the splattering grease or oil on the sensor, blah, blah, blah. Got it. But I heard a lot of great things. And I heard that this was a camera that was very good in low light as well.
It was.
It had great dynamic range. So
you forget that when these came out, they were a full frame camera at a crop sensor price. Very good value.
Yep. And David saying his D750 is his backup night photography camera. Yeah. So, you know, Nikon's, and that's the problem. Nikon, I don't know if it's Nikon doesn't, I get on this again, know how to market themselves or whatever. But I heard so many good things and so many people that shoot these cameras, and even Z-Way talking about the 610. I'd forgotten about that. There were so many good things discussed about the 610. And where are they? And, all we ever hear about is, the D700, the D3, and the D850, as cameras that were so fantastic. And not to take anything away from them, they were and still are in most cases. But I'll almost bet that there were more D750 sold. There had to have been more D750.
I always recommended it as a first camera because it's so rugged and reliable for the price.
Not to mention the fact that pros were buying the D750 again for events and wedding and other things. So, man.
You go to
All
one
right.
of these astrophotography meets, and they're all Nikons, every one of them.
J Rod said he did a lot of bird and flight with his Z6.
I have got one camera that's IR converted. I don't use it much at the moment.
Eric, he's talking about Z lenses. I don't know. I'm probably passed over the comment that provoked this response. I say provoked as if it's bad. It's not. He says people overpaid for the Z lenses. I don't know who you're talking about. But yeah, man, the Z lenses have been pretty incredible considering the cost.
Not only for money, they're cheaper than most of the other brands because
Mm-hmm.
they are top of the range. And the Nikon lenses, you can use them wide open, which a lot of brands you can't.
Yep. All right. All right. Roy, keep order in the house, man.
I'll do my best.
Don't let them burn us down.
We'll all be using Sony's by the time you come back.
Okay. Okay, man. That's fine. All right. I will be right back.
Oh, the 600 and 400 are cheaper than the last ones. The old 600 was even more expensive than the new one and not as versatile. I think the new 400 TC is probably the winner, though, because it's more versatile. But I like the 400 4.5 because it's lighter. Well, they don't make too many of the 600s because they're up to a real high quality. And it takes them so long to make them. They don't sell that many. They're very niche product. You don't sell too many 600s in a year. If they overpriced, sorry, I'm reading the. Yeah, 600. The thing is about the 600 is it's perfect for birding. And all the pros want the perfect lens. If you've got the 100 to 400, you probably don't need the 400 4.5. But if I had the choice between the two, I'd probably go for the 4.5 because I've got other lenses that do the same zooming. The other options are 70 to 200 with a teleconverter, which will it's quite a nice lens. I don't like teleconverters, but the lens is very good. When did I didn't live there for many years? Not for many decades. Yeah, I love the 70 to 200. It's fairly affordable, an excellent lens, and it can be teleconverted up. Most zooms cannot be teleconverted very well because they just lose too much. Being 2.8, you've still got the speed. If you put in the 100 to 400 teleconverter, you lose too much speed and it becomes unusable. Okay. Any other questions? Well, I'm in Melbourne, Australia. It's a nice country, but it's cold at the moment. What is it? It's only 15 degrees C. It's 6 in the morning, though. It's going to be 24 today, which is what, 80, 75 or something Fahrenheit, I hope. Oh, the 51 II is easily my favourite. It's a fantastic lens. I've got the other ones. The Fat Boys, where are they? The old 55s and 51 IIs. You kept them as a low light lens. They weren't really good wide open. Yeah. Every camera's got uses, weaknesses, and strengths. My favourite manual lens. Good question. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that for a while. Probably probably the 180 1.8 has been my favourite manual focus lens, which is somewhere here. Yeah, here somewhere. Where is it? Keep that one. Probably that one. Yeah, I've got that too, but I like a bit more reach. The 105-225 is excellent lens. That's the famous McCurry lens. The older 51-2 is a lovely looking lens, but it's not sharp wide open. I don't normally recommend it to many people. Yes, not if you're buying a Z camera though, because the Z camera doesn't run the old AFD lenses in autofocus. All the 300 Nikons of olden days are really good, but an AFD lens doesn't work on a Z camera in AF. Yes, I've got the 1000 reflex somewhere. Where is it? That's the 1000 reflex. It's I still use it. I used it about a week ago.
How's the resolution on that?
Sorry?
How's the resolution on that?
Very good. It's you've only got one aperture with all reflex lenses, but you don't get any chromatic distortion with reflex lenses like you do on optical lenses. Mirror lenses don't have that problem.
And I know you just talked. I know you just talked about the 300-2.8. Wasn't that at one time Nikon? It was considered Nikon's sharpest lens.
Oh yeah, excellent lens. I'll just show you the difference between going one stop up. They're both 500 lenses. That's a 500 f8, and that's double the size. It's a f5 500. So you can see the difference.
Wow.
When you want a faster lens, that's what happens. You get twice the size lens.
Somebody just built another reflex lens recently in the last.
Chiquita been releasing them for quite a while.
Yeah.
The thing is, this is a 500 millimeter lens, and compared to my other ones, it's tiny.
Right.
You could shove that in your bag, and you've got a 500 millimeter lens, but only f8. But very flexible, very. You haven't got quite the contrast on a reflex lens as you do on a normal lens, but they make up for it in other ways.
Daryl asks Roy's camera museum or lens museum, what don't you have that you would really like to get, Roy?
I don't know. I've got nearly everything I've been searching for. There's a few lenses I've been looking for. I've been thinking about getting an AW1 just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
A camera.
I was looking for it a while back.
But it's not high on my list.
Nikon's in here. Good to see you. Or Nick Can.
The 400 4.5 with the tele works really well with both teleconverters. I found it a little bit softer on the 100 to 400 than it is on the 4.5. I'm better. I'm up on top of the mountain with about a 50-foot drop out the side door. It's well secure.
Very defendable
Very
position.
defendable.
Yeah.
Any burglar would have to be a real acrobat.
So James, have you got your Nikon 1J5 yet? I'm curious to see when you get that, if you get it, adapting something to it.
Mm. By the way, the 1000mm has got a 3 times teleconverter.
Wow.
Imagine that on a crop sensor.
Oh man.
That'd upset the neighbours, wouldn't it?
5,000 millimeter lens.
Mm.
So James says he does have the J1 now, or J5. I'm sorry.
Mm.
And again, those were decent little cameras. Again, it got a bad rap because nobody else was doing it yet, or whatever, I guess. But I
I
thought
think what turned me off was the 1-inch sensor. If they'd had a bigger sensor, I'd be more interested. But I shouldn't have thought like that because they're good cameras.
and it was so menu driven too. I mean, just because of
They
its
like menus.
size. Mm-hmm.
I like lots of buttons so I can get to them quick. Actually, I like the D850 buttons better than the Z9s.
She Wade's private website. That's for your Patreon people, isn't it, Zach?
That'd be frightening.
A 445 plus a 1.4, I guess, TC works great in good light.
Yes, it does. I've tried it. Works fairly well in limited light as well, because it's still not in that sort of range where you're upsetting the autofocus. Depends on what camera too. If you're putting it on a Z9, it'll probably manage fairly well. But if you put on a Z6 or something like that, you'll have trouble.
Joe Man, what's your favorite older FX telephoto lens for value to buy?
Probably 300 f4 in the AFS. It's probably a good value.
That's the 300 without any rear element, isn't it?
Sorry?
Without any rear element, it seems.
Yeah, some of them do, some don't. It depends on what teleconverter you want. This is the grey one. I've got a black one as well.
Okay.
But it's not too big. See, I'll sometimes grab that too because it's so small.
Right.
It's still the difference between, say, 300 and 500 is not that big a deal. But if you want to, and you can put a teleconverter on it if you had to.
There were a lot of people that shot that lens for a long time.
All the 300s from Nikon have always been very good.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm going Nikon now. I'll blame Fargan. All the 300s, I've got 2.8s and everything, but weights, once you go faster glass, they become much bigger. I think my 2.8's still in the box somewhere. It's just so big and heavy.
Yeah, so as far as 400s go, I mean, I only say this because I have one, the 400 2.8 D version, not D2, but D version, which is an AFS lens as well. Not as fast, obviously, as newer lenses, but the quality is still there. The only problem with buying one is the fear of the focus motor going.
Yeah.
Because no replacements anymore.
It depends. The silent wave motors are fairly reliable, but provided you use them regularly. If you don't, they start to squeak. But the servo motor versions, they tend to burn out fairly easily. Depends on which lens you've got. Some lenses have got problems with their motors.
Yeah.
Some don't.
And I think that's where I'm at with mine. I think it's just I haven't used it enough, and it's beginning to make some noise. And so I don't know how much life it has left in it. Then it becomes a 400 manual focus lens.
It does. And a lot of the big lenses on the cheaper cameras used to burn out the motors in the camera because it's turning to the lens as well.
Yeah.
I've seen a few of them go.
We were talking about that earlier, and we were talking about battery life too. A lot of people
Oh yeah,
don't.
they've got to drive these big lenses. It's hard on the batteries.
Yep. 200 F2. Yeah, I have the 200 F2 version 1, AF1, that I think is a fantastic lens. But unfortunately, with the FTZ adapter, I can't, it just doesn't work well on my Z9. And other people don't have that problem. Don't get me wrong here and think that all are having the same issue. But for whatever reason, it just doesn't drive that focus motor well. Maybe it's the lens. Maybe it's showing its age as well.
Could be.
And there is nothing that compares to that 200 F2 as far as quality, in my opinion. It's just it's a fantastic lens, and I have walked around with that lens on the D5, believe it or not, and shot at events with it. And yes, it's a heavy lens, no doubt about it. But I have a friend that used to walk around with a 600 F4 shooting motocross handheld.
Oh, my one's an older one. It's probably, I don't know how many pounds it is, but it's very heavy. You don't want to carry them around. You need a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, Nikon needs a Z mount 200 F2. Yeah, there's going to be a big call for that coming up soon. I think we're filling up we're filling up
working our way through the list.
Yeah.
Most used to niche lenses at the end. I found that Nikon's pretty good on supporting old glass and old cameras now.
Yeah.
I had a lot of trouble with Sony trying to get my Sony fixed when it broke. Because Sony don't fix cameras, they shop it out to little companies. The little companies don't carry the parts and they just want you to buy a new one.
Yep. So
it's a paperweight.
We're working on our last hour here for this stream. So, 2023, sun's coming up. Maybe it'll warm up for you instead of that cold 75 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's 15°C at the moment, so that's pretty. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's going to reach 24, which is about 75, which is not warm for Australia.
Yeah.
Especially this time of year. It's very funny weather.
Let's see. It's always been Sony's model, buy the new stereos every year. That's why I didn't consider Sony when going to mirrorless. Well, yeah.
I only bought the Z7 because Nikon didn't have a mirrorless at the time. I wanted to see what it was all about. Had nothing but trouble for about 12 months and it died. I looked at the A1 and it felt the same, so I didn't go that way either.
Yeah, I hear you, Joe. They're gonna release the silver version next.
Or the purple version.
The purple version. Yeah, so CES begins tomorrow. So you know what? For those that believe that, those that believe
anything
that
could happen.
That's absolutely true. Anything could. I go back to, I don't think you're going to see a camera announcement or anything about cameras or lenses. It could happen. Maybe there is a mention. Nikon decides to drop some kind of mention, but I think that they want a more controlled marketing setup for the lenses and the camera. So I don't think they're going to just do a quick mention at CES. CES is going to be, I hate to say it, but I think it's going to be a bore if you're a Nikon fan. I think it's going to be a bore no matter what brand you're shooting. CES is going to be full of gamers, TVs, all the typical stuff out there, except for cameras. But I think that's, typical for CES, really. And a lot of people have said, Nikon historically hasn't really mentioned anything at CES, meaning first time mention. There may have been things that they bring up at CES that have already been, announced or whatever. So get ready for that. But we do have CP Plus coming up in February, 2 February. And I think if there's any place for Nikon, it's in Japan, any place for Nikon to really get serious and say, okay, here we go. We're kicking 2023 off with blank, or whatever it happens to be. That's where it'll happen. There may be some leaks between now and then, which is a good thing because it's, for the next few weeks, we can look at what leaks are falling or dropping. And just like the 85 1.2. So it's going to be interesting. Todd, hate to see you go, man, but always enjoy you being in here. Don't forget to drop a like if you would on the way out the door. And for everybody that's in here, if you're not subscribed, I would, really like you to consider subscribing and becoming part of the community. Our community's growing and we're going to continue to build. 2023 is going to be a banner year for our community. All right.
All the photographers are distilling down to the few that are left.
Yep. Yeah. So I think CP Plus is going to be a big one for us in Nikon camp. I would expect that Canon will have something to say. Sony, it's hard to say because we just got the 5. The R5. I keep saying that. People say that, and I'm thinking, okay, Canon R5? No, the SR5.
Confusing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It really is. And it's so close on the heels of the R4 is really what makes it.
There's not much difference either between the two cameras, it seems.
Yeah, I think the AI. I think the new AI stuff in it, in the R5 is what really makes the difference. But
it's mostly
see.
Marketing more than the actual feature, though. I think I'd probably go for the 4 if it was cheaper.
Yeah. And a lot of people decided to stick with the 4 from what I hear. There are some that have ventured in to try the 5. So I don't know what what Sony would announce at CP Plus. And I'm interested in what you guys think. If you're a Sony shooter, what do you expect or want? Same thing.
I'll probably release another camera. 6 now. so frequent.
Yeah. And for you Canon shooters, I mean, is there anything you're expecting to hear at CP Plus? Be interested to know. And I brought him up before, ordinary filmmaker, Simon over there. I know a lot of people, for whatever reason, don't like Simon's channel, but evidently there are tons of people that do like his channel. And what I like about it is he stays on top of whatever the latest rumor is. He's not saying over there that, hey, this is gospel. He'll give you his opinion or based on what the rumor leaker is saying about how probable it is. But it's a good way to stay on top of what's coming and at least know coming down the road, here's what to expect. Panasonic, of course, with the new release of the S5 II, that looks very promising for all you Panasonic folks out there. And there may be some people that might jump back to Panasonic in the video realm with this new phase detect autofocus that they put in the body. So that'll be interesting to see.
I still can't get over we're going back to phase detect after playing around with contrast detect for so long.
I think they call it modified phase detect, whatever that means. And I don't know.
Hybrid.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see. R5 II would be nice. Sebastian saying the R5 II would be nice, especially with a screen like the A7 R4. And you know what? That's something to look forward to. I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks, Sebastian, because screens are now becoming the thing. Where we were on AF all year in 2022, I think all year in 2023 with the new releases, it's going to be about screens. Is it a tilty? Is it a flippy? Is it a whatever? And, I've expressed my disdain for the flippy screen. I shouldn't say disdain. It's just not something I want. It is handy at times for somebody like me. It would be handy at times, but not enough. I don't like the fact that I have to pull it out to the side and then rotate it to flip it up or down. Now, if they come out with a way to do that and be able to push it back over to the center of the camera, I think I'd be more apt to fall in love with that type of
Yeah, my
screen.
wife's P900's got a more convenient flippy screen than the Z9.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what what comes out of 2023 for screens. The Z9 kind of broke a little bit, not new ground. I understand that Fuji had done something very similar, but I think everybody's seeing the light now that shooters want screens that are articulating in some way or form or fashion, and I like that. It's going to
I'm
be
more
interesting.
interested in the EVF. A good EVF would be more
Yeah.
useful to me.
And as far as the EVF goes, as far as the resolution of the EVF and the Z9, I'm happy with it. I got to be honest
That's
with you. I'm
good.
not just saying this as a fanboy. It works extremely well, I think. And the fact that you can dim and brighten it makes all the difference in the world as well. And
It's
I
one of the
haven't had,
clearest, brightest screens I've seen on a mirrorless.
yeah, and no blackout. I mean, it's fantastic. So I'd like to see that trickle down into the next generation of Nikon bodies as
I think the
well.
lower ones have got good VVFs too, but the Z9's got something really special in their EVF.
Yeah.
It's so usable.
And I'd heard about the Sony A7R5 and 9 million dot resolution, and I think that's cool. I don't know what that does for battery life, if anything, or hurting it, or my kitty cat wants some attention. So I don't know. I'd like to look through the camera and look through the EVF and look at the LCD on the back and just see how that looks. 9 million versus almost 3 million dot. So yeah, it's interesting.
It's
So I
important that
think,
it's 100% as well, not slightly cropped.
yeah,
Many of them are slightly cropped. I think the D6 is still expensive because a lot of the pro shooters, like sports photographers, are still using DSLRs.
yep, they are.
You'd be
And
surprised.
the Z9 didn't draw all the pro photographers over to the mirrorless. Like you said, a lot of people still shooting D5 and D6 in the pro market. So it'll be interesting to see. T-Mid, good to see you, buddy. Glad you jumped in here, Mr. T-Mid. He's just pumping out the content now, man. You guys are interested in lighting and 1, 2, 3 light photo shoots, indoor and outdoor. Jump over to T-Mid and check it out. He's always got something going, and he's real good about explaining what he's doing at the time. So, T-Mid, good to see you, buddy.
You should come on and talk more here.
Yeah, we need to get T-Mid in here again. T-Mid's only available typically on Saturday night, and that's when he's busy with all his content. But because I know he's another working photographer. What I mean by working photographer in this sense is he's got a 9 to 5 real job, regular job, whatever you want to call it, and doing all of his photography on the side, which keeps him very busy with the amount of travel and everything else he does. So always good to go over and check out Mr. T-Mid.
He's not a slacker like me.
Yeah, or me. Well, this week will be, or last week will be, let's see, how much time? About 11 hours of live streaming last week. So, it doesn't leave me a lot of time to actually go out and shoot. Yeah, we do, T-Mid. You need to figure out when you want to do that. And we need to, man, whether it's your channel, my channel, I don't care, but I'd love to do that because I am a fan of your work and what you're doing over there. And another, Anthony Toglife, he's very good at instruction. For those of you that are looking for instructional channels, I hate to say, but you didn't find it here. But, we are a bit different. So there's so much information, and I learned something every stream from you guys in the chat. But if you're looking for instructional videos, there are some great sites out there that I can recommend. And, to include Mr. Z Wade Photo and all the others that I have mentioned in the thumbnail. So, by all means, check them out. Nikon talking about the
Menu system.
ergonomics, yeah, and the menu system. A lot of people still seem to think that Canon has the best menu system, and I haven't played with Canon, but I'll take there are a lot of credible folks out there that talk about it, and I will
It's
take
good.
their word for it. Yep,
I've used it. It's good. I think the Nikon one's slightly easier. I think they're both well ahead of the Sonys and that, but I'd prefer everything on buttons myself if I had a choice rather than have to dive into a menu.
absolutely. And again, that goes back to the more expensive the camera, the more accommodation you're expecting for that. So it's external controls rather than having to do a menu dive. Absolutely. Yes, Daryl, there will be another New York City trip. I don't know exactly when because I'm not getting out of Connecticut anytime soon. We hope to be getting closer and closer to that, but it's not going to be in the next month or two. That's for certain. So yeah, I want to do another New York City trip and go down there, probably get some more people together and have a good time. Maybe this time even take a photo or two. That would be nice for a photo walk.
Goes together well, doesn't it?
Yeah. We wound up sitting in a pub and enjoying a conversation, of course, photography related. So, but yeah, I plan to do that again. We'll put something together and get down to New York City and have a good time. On that note, I will be going out to, at least right now, all things are go for a trip to WPPI in Las Vegas. And that's coming up in March. I think March the 5th through the 9th, maybe, or something. I may have the dates a little bit askew, but going out to WPPI for anybody that may be going out there. I look forward to meeting a lot of people. I know that there are quite a few folks that are in our community that have expressed the intent to go out there, and really looking forward to getting to meet more people and getting to shake Vahagan's hand. I mean, we've become pretty good friends over the phone and via YouTube, but there's nothing like meeting people in person and getting to shake the hand and everything else. So we'll be going out to WPPI. I do plan to do some live streaming from the floor. I will be doing that. So look forward to that. It may not be great quality because it'll be on the run, but definitely going to do some live streaming from the floor at WPPI. Keep you all in the loop and what's going on out there. So that's definitely and not in the works. That's definitely, it looks like it's definitely going to happen right now, barring any more major plumbing issues and whatever. I plan to be out there.
House plumbing or physical plumbing?
Yeah, oh man. This house is killing me. But you got 3 big events, folks. We got CES starting tomorrow. And Nikon just mentioned that it's already up on YouTube. Maybe there's some previews or whatever. Maybe they have their own marketing team talking about it already. So, and then we got CP Plus. This is the big one. This is what everybody's waiting for. CP Plus coming out of Japan. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm going to be glued to trying to keep up with everything that's going on at CP Plus. And I don't know. Maybe if it's on a normal, which it will be, I think CP Plus. No, it's a Thursday through Sunday, I believe. So there is a chance on a Saturday night I may pull a live stream up over here or live from CPS if it's going on, and we can talk about it while it's going on. And then, of course, WPPI, and that's for all of us folks here in the lower 48 to try to get together, or anybody from abroad if they want to go. So these are the things coming up, and we're going to make it a little more spectacular in AP Studios this year. Try to get a little more going on, maybe more people in the chat or in the panel. I just look to see if there's anything going on over here in my email. Yeah, Albert, and I definitely want to get it going. I know you want to be there, and I will make sure that we try to get as many people as we can, because everybody needs to meet these individuals that pop into the chat. And there's so much more that goes on, obviously, when we all get together. It's not like trying to type in here and miscommunication in how we type or whatever. But sit down with Albert Jimenez. I'll tell you, pretty exciting guy, and he's pretty amazing. I think you guys would enjoy sitting around talking with him as well.
He was reluctant to come on as well, but he did such a good job.
Yeah, he did an excellent job, and we got to get him back in here again. Let's see, Greg, am I using an external monitor on the Z6? Yes, sir, I am, Greg. I have actually, I have an Adamus Ninja 5 mounted to the cage on the Z6. And you know what? I don't even need it because I actually pull the stream up on another computer with an external monitor and watch it over there. I can see it on the 27-inch monitor over there. But I have the Adamus 5, so I just stuck it on here, and it makes it real easy to frame everything up. And I know it's not as easy as flipping a screen around backwards or whatever if you're trying to frame yourself, setting up a camera. And it is an additional cost. But now with the mirrorless system in Nikon, by the way, and I'm sure it's this way with other cameras, other makers out there, you can use your iPhone, it seems now, for an external monitor if you just want it to frame yourself when setting the camera up and whatever. But I can always just turn the Adamus 5 around and see it from the back side of the camera, or the front side of the camera, as I have it now. So a lot going on. 2023 is going to be a pretty exciting year. I claim it already. It's going to happen. We're going to have a good time. Nikon's going to get out of the slump. They're not going to be asleep at the wheel. And so for us Nikon shooters, that's a good thing. Plus all the things that are technologies coming out of Canon, Sony, Fuji, and Panasonic and OM. You know, I don't want to exclude anybody because everybody has a choice and everybody picks what they like to shoot. And so we're just going to be all inclusive.
Different camera for different uses.
Yeah, different. Exactly. Even within the brand, there are so many different cameras for different uses, obviously. But of course, you can pick your brand, and I hope you're happy with it. Just joining Woody. Did you say you were about to move? No, Woody, I wish I said that, but I didn't. I say it's not going to be anytime soon, like in the next couple or 3 months. However, we get closer every day. The fewer leaks I have, the closer I get to selling the house. Kind of hard to sell the house with an indoor pool in the basement. An unintentional indoor pool.
Yeah, I like field monitors too. I use them a lot.
Yeah.
I don't like using the back screen much. Good thing about field monitors, you can have focus peaking on camera that doesn't have it.
Yeah, exactly. Which you can do obviously with the Adamus or any other actual dedicated monitor. Yes, true enough. And of course, everybody keeps asking for that in all the different brands and bodies. You know, give us focus peaking in, you know, in camera.
If you're doing macro or doing manual focus lenses, focus peaking is a godsend.
Yeah. Yep, it is. And I love that in the Z9 as far as manual focus and the focus peaking goes. You just don't get it in video. You can charge more money for an indoor pool. Absolutely. But then I have to give up the boiler that heats the house because of the pool that's in the basement and all the other things. Jaspreet Singh, good to see you, buddy. I know it's probably very early for you, but man, we've been in here for a while. And he's saying, give me the Z6 III. That's all I need. And I'm interested in what the Z6 III is going to be as well, Jaspreet, because if it turns out the Z8 is going to be some super high megapixel monster, I don't know that I'm up for that. But, you know, I'm happy that others may be. But then again, we go back to what does the Z7 become? If you do that with the Z8, what does the Z7 become? So it's going to be interesting. Oh, you're in UK, 7:28 p.m. Yes. Okay. Got it. I didn't know where you were, Jaspreet. All right, man. So yeah, we've had a pretty big discussion today on quite a few things, what the expectations are. And if you haven't done it, check out Photography Discourse, Baron, over on his channel. He just dropped another video this morning, and he's talking about what he sees Nikon doing over the next year and year plus. So you may want to check that out and see if you agree or disagree. But I think he's, he's on spot for he's as close as you can be, I think, like the rest of us with Nikon, because Nikon's not giving us a lot of hints.
They're not predictable anymore.
No, not at all. Not at all. So, all right. So now opening it up to you guys. Anything in particular you guys want to chat about before we get out of here? So we got about 30 minutes before I've got to run, and we can talk about what's the next topic. What do you guys want to talk about? Because this is all about you anyway, and for you. Jaspreet, I don't need a 61 megapixel camera.
Yeah.
Let's see. I need photo, video, hybrid.
Is that?
Yep. Yep.
I think Z6 is a good general purpose camera. The Z6 series.
Yep, I think so
too. Good
general
purpose camera.
And if they make it a very good hybrid camera, very good video capability, of course it's going to carry the stills capability along with it. Make it a great hybrid camera, and the price I think is going to be right for so many people to get into the Nikon mirrorless system. And I think it's going to, it excites me again. Like I said, depending on what we see, 33 megapixel, give me 10-bit 422 internal, and great autofocus system, and I think I'm in.
It's pretty much, it's nearly there now.
Yep. Because the big thing we can expect, I'm sure, in all these cameras, at least these three, is going to be that XP 7 processor. I don't think that they can skip on that now. I think that's it. All three cameras get that processor. And with that processor, many things are possible. Joe Man's Lab. Could you see Nikon marketing pushing a marketing campaign similar to the Canon Creator Lab? Man, Joe, we've talked about that. We talked about it all year last year, what Nikon has in store for marketing. I don't know. Let's see what they do this year. It's going to be interesting. You can see on the screen back here, this is the new thing, Nikon Sessions. And Richie, I'll say Richie, I never say it right, is hosting that. And they're going to have several of these in the series. And the first one was just dropped, I think yesterday or day before. And it is all about music photographers. And if you haven't gone over to see it, it's really interesting. I enjoyed watching it. And they're going to have, I guess, several of these in this series. So that might be something to look at and see. But as far as external, Canon and Sony do a remarkable job at marketing, meaning promoting a lot of the events that go on and being sponsors too, a lot of the videos that you see and everything else. And I would hope that Nikon's back in a financial position to be able to start doing that as well. But I don't know. Good question. Yeah, I don't know about 12-bit NRAW. I don't know about NRAW at all in the Z6 III. That battle is going on right now with Red, of course. It's not going to be settled anytime soon. But I don't know if Nikon's going to go that far in the next iteration of cameras. Maybe they know something we don't, and they will include it. But I don't expect that in the Z6 III. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. So Albert says, I'd absolutely return. I'm already engaged in some unusual projects with adapting Fujifilm medium format lenses from the film era on the Nikon F and Z mounts. Wow. Interesting. Cool. This may go hand in hand with the question was asked earlier about maybe older F mount lenses that are still relevant, or what, I think it was you, Joe Man's Land, that actually asked that. All right, man. We're going to have to
schedule the old film medium format lenses because they're just so good. Some of them were thousands of dollars in their day, and they're fantastic lenses, and adapting them to the Nikon Z system's brilliant.
Yeah.
You may lose some electronic connections, but
Right.
that's about it.
Right. But, especially if it comes to video, I mean, pulling focus is still not just a viable option. I mean, it's still the way of real cinematic video or movies. So can you imagine pulling focus with one of those old medium format lenses on a camera? Man, I'd like to see what it does. Let's see. Eric says you guys should collab. Roy, you and Matt. I think you would have a good time interviewing you, Roy. I really do, because I mean you're an interesting character as far as camera gear goes.
I don't deal with people very. I spent most of my life in a studio alone, so it's kind of a bit funny.
Well, you know what? I have noticed you have opened up since you started coming on live, and I think it's great.
Well, I spent many years alone.
Well, you can see now how relevant you are. How many people have questions about, so many of these lenses and camera bodies that you've got?
I've only got so many because I've been playing with them so many years. I started photography in the 60s, and I've been earning money since 78. A lot of video people don't like these new lenses because they're focused by wire and it messes them up. There's a lag,
but this new firmware update
reduces the lag.
Yeah, it actually establishes almost a linear focus. It's not linear focus, but linear focus like, so that I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. I haven't done it yet. I haven't even uploaded the new firmware. That's how far behind I am, folks. I haven't even uploaded 3.01 yet.
I haven't either because my camera's on holiday still.
Folks, pulling video is incredibly hard when you're by yourself. I'd say it's almost impossible unless you're extremely good at it. But you've got so many things going on, it's really hard to pull focus and compose and run the camera and sound and everything else. So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I wouldn't recommend it for solo shooters either. But that's the nice thing about the cameras that we're getting now. I mean, it may not be cinematic, although there are some small cinematic qualities that you can establish with the Z9. It's kind of breaking new ground for video. So with dedicated or with predictable AF from your camera, you can be a one-man band out there shooting. And I guess there are enough people that are still wanting to pull focus that Nikon decided to add this bit in the firmware for the lenses. I think it's pretty interesting. So if you want to know if Nikon's dedicated to, and look, they're not doing this just for manual focus still shooters. This has a lot to do with the video shooters as well. And if they're doing that, you can bet that they're all in on video. So that's good to see. I dropped it. For those of you that don't know, let me go over here. Shameless plug. But really, we're just building a community here as well. Nikon Amateurs group on Facebook. If you guys would like to go over there and check it out, maybe even join. I just posted another video by he's a Canon shooter, not dedicated Canon shooter. He's a video shooter, but he fell in love with the R3 and he just recently got his hands on the Z9 and he's extremely impressed with what the Z9 brings to the table for video, which is, an unusual thing to hear about Nikon and good video, but the Z9 does bring some fantastic capabilities to video. And again, we want to see those fall into the lower tier models that are coming out. But if you want to check it out, you can go over to Nikon Amateurs group. There are a couple of videos and things that I've posted over there. Posted the Nikon Sessions thing there. You can check that out. And if you'd like to share a photo, by all means do. Don't let the title fool you. I don't care if you're shooting Sony, Fuji, Canon, whatever, or pinhole cameras. I don't care. You know, if you'd like to become a member and become a member of that community as well, by all means do so. And if you want to share photos over there, by all means share all you want. That's one of the things that's great about it is, you know, you get a little feedback for what you're doing, what you're out there producing. Showcase yourself, and there's an opportunity. So if you haven't done it, go over there and check it out. I'm going to have to change all the names to all these things. I was so Nikon centric in the beginning because I was fighting with all the influencers and everything in 2018 when I started this. So everything had to have Nikon in it. But now I don't care. You want to, you're shooting something else, that's fine. Become part of the community. If it doesn't bother you to be in a Nikon amateurs group.
All cameras are pretty good now, though. It's hard to find a bad camera.
It is. It really is. Yep.
It's not like years ago where you found cameras don't do certain things that you need to do.
Again, Eric, I just, was just talking about it over on Nikon Amateurs Group. If you go over to Facebook, NAG, Nikon Amateurs Group, pull it up. There's a post there. There's a post there from Nikon Rumors about the 85 1.2. I have Nikon Sessions posted there, so you can check out what it's all about. I think it's just Rishi that's going to be hosting this. It's going to be a series of different photography genres, maybe. And the first session was about music photography, concert photography. And I found it really interesting, even though it's not something I'm doing, but it was really interesting listening to the people talk about how they got into it. And for those that want to do that, would like to do that, there's a few tips there that you might grab on how to do it yourself, how to begin it yourself. So that's what it's about. Actually, it looks to be a promising series, at least from session number 1. Yeah, everybody talking about your Z9, Roy? I saw you over there typing, you responding.
Still waiting for parts. They are. You'd think it's a Sony, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
That's what happened with my Sony. They're waiting for parts that never came.
Joe Man's Land. I love triggering purists by mounting Canon FD lenses, film lenses to my Z6. Yeah, it always seems to grab some attention, doesn't it? Why would you do that? Let's see.
These lenses annoy Canon users a lot and Sony users.
Yeah, the gray lenses.
Confused.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man. I like Sigma lenses. I used to have a few that sort of died. They're really good caps that fit under the table nice. I finally found a use for them.
There you go. Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, James. This is why I don't expect anything at CES when it comes to camera or lenses. I mean, there could be some kind of mention of some sort. I don't know. But I think, and it's, I got to tell you, it's boring and it's disappointing to go over there and Nikon's vision for the future at CES.
I don't have one.
Their 2030, not prediction, but where they're headed and what they're looking at out to 2030. Oh man, it's just it's political. It gets political. In my opinion, it gets political because Nikon's now going to save the world from climate change. So there you go. And they don't say that, but I mean the point is that this has I think this has less to do with cameras and photography than it does with their robotics division and maybe their medical imaging division and things like that. That's what I think they're going to be talking about out there at CES. But we'll see. We'll know. We may know tomorrow, since tomorrow it all kicks off, and we'll see what Nikon's got to say. But if you want, go over there to Nikon USA, or if you're in the US, of course, go to Nikon Europe or wherever you happen to be, and I'm sure they have the same thing posted there. So if you want a good boring read, in my opinion, I didn't read it all. I just went over to check it out, see what it was about, see if it had anything to do with what might happen at CES, and got bored and said, okay, enough of that. I know Nikon needs to diversify, and that's good. I don't need to participate in it. So, what else we got? What else we got, Roy?
Not really. Don't know. Can't think of anything. This year could be interesting. It could be boring again. I think Nikon did a pretty good job last year, though.
All right.
All the firmware releases, and that were nice.
That's the sticking point with so many people as far as firmware releases. It was definitely dedicated to the Z9, and I'm not going to fault them for that. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to fault them for all the love they gave to the Z9 as far as firmware goes. But there's still a lot of A6 II, A7 II shooters out there that are disappointed that they didn't get the love that even the A6, or I'm sorry, the Z6 and Z7 got. So, yeah.
Z6 has come a long way since it was first born.
It has.
Camera now.
I think we're talking about processing power, even though the Z6 II and Z7 II have two X-Speed 6 processors. I don't think it doesn't even come close to matching the capability of the X-Speed 7. And I think Nikon did say that early on. And I think that's what limited the
it's all the support electronics too that get the throughput.
Yeah. I think they maxed out what they could do in the Z6 and Z7, even with just one X-Speed 6 processor. And there really wasn't much that the X-Speed 6 dual processor setup did for the 6 II and 7 II. So I don't think there was much more left to.
They are better, but not significantly better.
Right. Back to Albert. Adapting incredibly difficult to modify Fujifilm GX680 system and the Fujifilm Texas Leica GW690 lenses. Wow. Have never been seen being adapted. Okay. I'm sure you meant never. Yeah.
The thing is, the 680's got a bellows system that the lens fits on, and you've got to have a bellows as well, or a helicord system of some sort.
That might be interesting.
Where are they?
Yeah, Daryl. You got to search to find anything over there. And there's nothing about Nikon sessions, by the way. Or I couldn't find it on Nikon USA page. If you want to check it out, just search YouTube. Just type in Nikon sessions in the YouTube search bar, and it'll pop right up.
So this is the lens. There's no focusing mechanism in them. It's all in the camera itself.
Okay.
On the 680.
How did I know you would have one? Not only can you talk about it, but you can show it. That's amazing. That is amazing, Roy.
Yeah. I'll show you the camera so you can see the difficulty. That's 680, and that's how it focuses.
Okay.
Got built-in bellows.
Yeah. So you got to have one of those towels over your head on tripod.
No. But that means it's very flexible and very powerful. But means the lens doesn't have any focusing mechanism in it.
Right.
Which means you're going to have a bellows to adapt as well.
Wow. It's going to be interesting. Can't wait to see what Mr. Albert comes up with.
Me too.
Let's see. I would have thought Greens would love. Yeah, they're going to. Hey, Ray, as far as this 2030 vision or whatever it is. Yeah, I think there may be some interesting points in there for them because, again, it's about simplifying and helping and minimizing, footprint. When I say footprint, I'm talking about equipment and stuff like that. So, but Nikon's into that with all their robotics and everything else going on. And they're going to have their little robotic trike, so you get to ride it. I mean, not ride it. I mean, you're not going anywhere. It's automated, but it has a huge green screen or something behind it. And they're going to have their robot set up with a camera mounted so that they can video you sitting on this thing as it dodges through a city or whatever, looking like you're actually doing it. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see that part anyway.
Yeah, Albert's right. Those lenses are really, really sharp, really good lenses. That's why you would adapt them.
Yep. I see now. Albert, I'm a visual person. And when he pulled that out, I get it. Okay. I got it now.
That's why it's so difficult, because you haven't got the bellows attached to the lens.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably use one of the Nikon bellows instead to focus it. I've got a lens that's like that from Nikon. This lens. It's a bellows lens from Nikon. There's no focusing attachment. It has to go on a bellows to focus. So maybe that's a system that Albert will have to use.
So circa what year for that?
I don't know. 1970s, I'd say.
Oh, yeah? Z6 Mark III or Z7 Mark III would be better than Z8. So I don't know what that's in response to.
Z8.
Nikon.
Need my Z8.
Yeah. Let me agree with you, because they will in certain areas. I think that you'll find that that's what I envision Nikon doing. Z8, Z7 III, and Z6 III. Being almost different cameras, of course, sharing, the most pertinent pieces like AF and things like that, but being dedicated to an audience and a genre of photography or videography. And I would agree. I think Nikon knocks it out of the park if they go that route. Give the studio shooters, the commercial photography shooters, product photographers, and landscape photographers, the Z7 massive megapixel camera. I think they're happy. It doesn't need any massive frame rate or anything like that, considering what they would be shooting. And everybody's happy because they have this super high megapixel camera for their specific genre. The Z6, make it the video stills hybrid camera that does both extremely well. And again, no necessity for super high frame rate or anything like that in that camera. But it would be a good stills camera even for somebody to pick up in that price range. Make the Z8, the Z9 baby, as I've said before, keep it at 45 megapixels since it seems that they've peaked there, and let it be the poor man's sports and wildlife camera. And later down the road, give us a Z90 Pro APS-C body. But I think that Nikon knocks it out of the park if they do that.
That's not too big. We've got smaller ones.
So what's that?
A Bronica ETR. See, smaller. Not all big. People are telling me how big my Fuji is.
Daryl says, seriously, Roy should open a museum. Yeah, Eric, but I don't think we're gonna get it at CES. And again, I'll tell you, Saturday night I'll be able to tell you I was wrong if I was, and I'll be happy to. I'd actually gladly say that. I really would. Nikon surprises at CES with some kind of a camera or lens announcement, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think they're gearing up for CP Plus. There may be more leaks, like I said, here in the next few weeks, or maybe even Nikon decides to do some kind of development announcement prior to CP Plus. I don't know, but I think by CP Plus, Nikon has to announce something. So I think that's where it's going to happen. Joe, they saved the environment by selling unsold ZFC bodies and new paint.
Yeah, I never saw the point of bringing it a black one. They're supposed to be retro, and they'll bring out a black one.
And oh, by the way, you can't get the black one in the U.S. I mean, what's that all about? As a matter of fact, I think it's only UK or Europe, isn't it?
Only from Nikon service places, or certain Nikon places, you can get them.
Yeah, they're new little niche stores that they're going to open.
Yeah, kind
of like-ish, you know.
Yeah, like Canon, and they're not selling to third-party lenses anymore.
Yeah.
Same sort of mentality, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, J-Rod, it is. It's good to see everything they're doing right now. We're again, I don't have any heartburn with last year other than the fact that there wasn't a lot offered to all the regular Joes out here that aren't buying into pro wildlife sporting equipment. Nikon knocked it out of the park. Absolutely in that realm. But maybe this year is the year of the Poe man. Those of us that don't have a pocket full of cash are going to be able to, buy some things that we want. I think Nikon knows that. They have to do that. So I expect it. Maybe that was their plan all along, is save it all up, get everything ready, go into the new year, maybe even having a good stock pile of bodies and lenses, and begin to launch these things so that we're not waiting 12 months. So if you think, again, I said this before, if you think the wait for the Z9 was terrible, I have a feeling if the Z8 comes out and it is what I think it is, you're going to wait a while. I think
Let's just hope they're building up stocks.
Let's hope. Absolutely. But we've said this before. Let's hope. We've said this with the D800. Maybe the next launch, they'll have stocks prepared and ready to meet the demand. But I have a feeling, I mean, they're just going to, pull that typical statement they use all the time up, change the date on it. Nikon regrets to inform the demand was overwhelming and blah, blah, blah. I hope that isn't the case, but
time will tell.
Yeah. So Phil says Z8 should equal or surpass the A1. I don't know whether it will or not. Phil,
different camera.
It's not in that category, but if it does, then that's a big win for Nikon. But get ready, because Sony's going to respond, and Canon, wait till they launch the R1. I'm telling you right now, I think the R1 is going to be a monster camera. It really is. There's so much time being taken, and they're looking at everything that's going on in the camera world, everything Nikon's doing, everything Sony's doing. And I think it's going to be a monster camera.
They're talking 2024 for the R1.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that it will remain the monster camera forever. I think, again, we're back to the days when everybody's going to start leapfrogging each other. And now we have a new entrant, Sony. So it makes it even more interesting. Maybe it comes more often. The jumps take place more often. So that's what we can look forward to. But I think the Z8 is going to be a hot camera. I really do. There are going to be a lot of people. Again, though, the price point is going to be its only limiting factor, in my opinion. And if it comes out at $4,000, then the price point is going to stymie sales a little bit. But the Z6 III, I think the Z6 III is going to be the camera that's going to skyrocket. It's down at the price point so many people can afford, and it's going to be able to do everything or quite a few things equally as good as the other cameras in Nikon's lineup. And it's going to be really interesting to see how that thing sells. I think it's going to sell extremely high. Could fool me on the Z8. Depending on the price point. I mean, if it's hovering closer to $3,500, which a lot of people seem to think it will not, but if it is, it's going to sell like hotcakes. And it's funny how $400 or $500 can change the, how it sells.
That's the Leica SL2, Eric. I hope. Interesting camera, very expensive though, if it is. Pentax are making DSLRs again. What else is new? The SL2 and SL Leica is always interesting. Expensive, but interesting.
It's funny how many people mention the lighted buttons, and of course Nikon did that early on with their.
I can't do without them now. I went back to the Z6, and I really miss them. You work in a dark studio and that, and you can't see a thing.
And that's what Ryan's. Yeah, Ryan's saying the same thing here. The Z7 III has backlit buttons, and a Fuji X-T5 style flip screen, and it's going. I think you can count on it having something, a new screen orientation, whether it's flip screen or I don't know. We'll see but it's definitely not going to be just a LCD mounted to the back of the camera nowadays. But you're saying that would be perfect for your landscape photography, and I can understand that landscape photography. Yeah,
perfect landscape. Well, Heaton just bought one, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Gave up on his Fuji GFX and bought a Nikon Z7.
Now, the question is going to be how Nikon tweaked that. If let's just say the Z7 III comes with that Sony 61 megapixel sensor. Of course, Nikon's going to have their brand. I mean, they're tweaking all over that. It's going to be built for Nikon, but can Nikon pull it off at 61 megapixels? It's going to be interesting to see. A lot of people didn't think they could pull off 36 megapixel with the D800, and they did. And look, everybody. Yep, and everybody went to high megapixel cameras after that. So
I think a few of the delays in cameras coming out because they're all taking out the shutters.
Yeah, there you go.
I think so. Nikon's faster processors they have to keep up.
Yep, Nikon started a trend there as well. So now that's a question: will the Z8 be shutterless? I don't know.
I'd say so. That's a trend.
I think so. I agree. It's all going to. I think it's all going to be determined by availability of some parts and by cost. But sensors. Who was talking about that the other day? The difference between a full frame sensor and a APS-C sensor is not as large a gap as you think it is, and I can't remember who was talking about that.
It's not, but there's you get some advantage in dynamic range and things with a bigger sensor, but it's not the bigger difference you used to have.
I'm talking as far as money, cost. They were saying as far as cost goes, it's not as big as you think it is.
That's right. That's why I think Nikon are reluctant to put out another D500 in Z mount. I don't think the cost is worth it anymore. Well, Well, the D600 and the Z6 have made full frame very affordable.
Yep. Oh, man, let me see here. Try to keep up again. Let's see.
I think shutterless does save some money, but I think all the electronics that they need to make everything faster to get that frame rate and all that up to a really good level adds cost too. And it's amazing how these mechanical parts are so reliable. Like some of these cameras are 70, 80 years old and they're still clicking away merrily. and the electronic versions are all dying.
Growing pains.
Mm.
Eric's beating on Nikon pretty good today, and don't
I hope they're not
don't
like Leica. Leica are very aristocratic, but Nikon's always been the sort of premier brand in the past, so maybe there's a little bit of that in it.
And I do believe that. I do believe that that's the case, and we're going to find out this year, because if Nikon, if it turns into another year of slow to get things out the door, slow to announce things, then I think Nikon has just given us the moniker for Nikon from that point forward. It's going to be a not niche brand. Of course, it won't be a niche brand, but it's going to be a high end brand. They've already said no more 24 megapixel cameras. And I don't know. It's going to be one of those things where they're just going to say, you get it when you get it. We're more into quality and innovation, and it's going to take us longer, and it's going to take us longer to produce because we don't have the production facilities that the others do. Then they become Leica-ish. And you can't expect Nikon to pump out cameras like Sony or Canon or anybody else. We're going to find out, because I have my concerns about Nikon's production ability.
The only drawback I see with shutterless is flash control. I think they have to use a silicon controlled rectifier to trigger the flash now, and that's not compatible with some flashes. That's the only drawback I've seen, and probably a little bit. Some of them would have rolling shutter problems if they weren't as fast as the Nikon Z9. But that's the only problem I see with shutterless cameras. They're going to be more reliable, less moving parts, I hope. Although my D4's shutter's been running for over 900,000 actuations. So
yeah.
Can't complain about that.
The demand for the ZFC, the demand wasn't demanding for the ZFC. True enough, I don't understand Nikon's positioning or timetable as far as announcement for a lot of the cameras that they've already announced. Maybe it was just to liquidate stock, get rid of the Z6, Z7, Z6 II, Z7 IIs, take your time coming out with the next body or whatever. And in the meantime, we'll drop a couple of these cameras that are niche cameras that I think the ZFC did sell well. Not something I want, but I think that it did sell well.
Yeah, I liked it, but not for me. It looks a very good camera, but I'm more interested in the function of the camera than the looks.
May get your wish, Jeff. And that's the big thing we're going to be talking about until we actually get something. I think the Z8 tells the tale. If the Z8 is the next camera that comes out, and I expect that it will be, I think it's going to paint the picture for what's coming after. And we can sit back. We don't have to speculate. I think it will tell us what the Z7 III and the Z6 III will be, just by looking at the specs of the Z8.
Yeah. It's interesting we're not talking about overheating cameras a lot these days, and they're still doing it in many brands.
Yeah.
It's very strange that the subject's gone away. I think that they needed to go bigger bodies and just let them cool down.
Well, that's going to be interesting to see what if the Z8, let's just say again, go back to what we think it's going to be. It's going to be the baby Z9, same sensor, processor, and pipeline and everything else. Obviously, it's in limited space, meaning a smaller body. Is that going to make a difference when it comes to heat dissipation? I would expect it will. I mean, with the bigger body, obviously, you've got more room, more magnesium, metal, whatever, to dissipate heat. So will there be an issue? Is Nikon found some wonder fix for that? Will there be an extreme limitation on recording time when it comes to video? And understand this: the only people that are even concerned about overheating are video people. Stills people could care less.
A lot
It's
of
just
it's
not.
the quality of the chips in the cameras, because the cheaper the chips, the more they tend to heat up.
Mm-hmm.
They generate more heat, the cheaper chips, and more metal in the camera, the more it cools down. A
Yep.
lot of plastic in these cameras is not helping it at all.
Yep. So true. Mm. Hey, Six String Brian, how you doing, Brian? Good to see you, man. Touch focus rear screen is what eventually will get me into the Z system for landscapes. Well, what do you mean with?
I thought they did it now.
Yeah, we're already there. I don't know if you're talking about a specific touch screen thing or whatever, but yeah, we're already there. Matter
Even
of
the
fact,
D850's got that.
matter of fact, just to test it, I did this, I don't know, 6 months ago or so. I have a pen. I don't know if I have it sitting here or not, but I have a pen that has, yeah, here it is. This little blue dot on the end is a touch sensitive thing or whatever for, moving things around on or whatever. I used it on the back of the camera and it worked. I thought, so instead of my big fat finger, trying to get precise with the focus, I thought, let me try one of these little widgets, pins or whatever. And it actually worked on the back of the camera on the LCD screen. So, so Mike, I don't know what you mean. Maybe you mean something different, but yeah, I mean, we're already there as far as touch.
The D850's touchscreen live focus wasn't brilliant, but it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Barely.
The only thing I don't like about it is, I don't know, maybe you can separate touching the screen for focus. You can separate take a shot, touch for shooting. Because when I had that on, I found myself constantly taking pictures of everything around me.
Very fiddly.
Because every time I'd try to touch or try to keep my hand off the screen, it seemed like I'd touch it and take a photo of something. And Chris is talking about the ZFC. ZFC sales are like hotcakes in Asian market. There you go. And that's the part that's what you guys in the chat bring to the community is you're out and about other places. We got people all over the world, and you guys can bring in a perspective that we don't see in America. Yes, the ugly American, we don't always look beyond the end of our nose. And that's kind of why we got into this discussion the other day about an entry-level camera for Nikon. What's Nikon going to do to bring, the younger generation in with a relatively cheap, relatively inexpensive, I should say, camera, full frame and or APS-C. Right now, Nikon's not in the lead on price point for that with the current selection. And why is it important? It's important because everybody's not in America. And if Nikon, I'm sure, would like to sell worldwide, and they do. So we don't always have that same perspective, and I'm glad you guys are in. And just like you, Roy, the other day we were talking about price point on the, Z8 where it may be, and I'm hearing $6,500, and I'm thinking no way, or $7,000. I'm thinking no way. There's no way it's going to sell for that. But stupid me's looking at it in U.S. dollars, and you brought up we're talking Australian dollars, much different. So again, I really appreciate you guys bringing that to our attention from time to time so that, we can actually speak the right speak here. Yeah. Oxymoron is what it is, Jeff. An oxymoron. Because I just don't know what their production capability is since they've reorganized and everything else. I don't know how much production capability they gave up. but they hired 256 people or something like that for their new headquarters last year. Their new $1
They
million.
fired half the APS-C people. People I knew well.
So Long Rider's saying that if Nikon uses the same Sony sensor, it won't be shutterless. The readout speed is too slow.
Yeah, that's a problem. They need to get good shutterless camera. You need fast readout,
Yeah.
a good sensor, a lot of good electronics to get the throughput through. Fast cards, all works together nicely. Point and shoot do it because they got a little sensor. Bigger the sensor, more work.
I have one left, Jeff, and that is my D500. One DSLR left.
Tough little camera.
Well, I've got more glass than anybody would ever need for a D500, though.
I've got 4 or 5 DX lenses. That's about it. Don't like them much, but I've got them.
Brian just ordered his 51.2. That would be Sony. Brian's a Sony shooter. So you have it next week, man. Be interested to see what you have to say about it. I'll tell you, on the Nikon side, everybody on the Nikon side has been extremely happy with their 51.2. I would expect you will be as well, but just you'll have to let us know.
Have to be very careful what's in focus, though, because very short depth of field on a 1.2. Takes a little bit more work to get a good image.
That's going to be the fun of playing with it, though. You know,
yeah.
There's some artistic shots that are going to come out of that. You just have come out with the 51.2. You know, and everybody talks about they're sick of creamy depth or bokeh or whatever. Yeah.
I'm sick of bokeh.
You know, really the out of focus area is what I want to say. Bokeh to me is the little lights dots, you know, that the little circles in the back for highlights or whatever. But anyway,
what's the point of that if the face isn't fully in focus?
Well, yeah, and that brings up the point of is how do you know what are you trying to create? If you're doing portraits for headshots for your portfolio or something like that, or you're doing passport photos, yes. I mean, absolutely. You know, you're going to shoot at 5, 6, 7, whatever. But you can have some fun with some creative portraits where just the eye, you know, is in focus and then everything else begins to fall off. And some people say, well, I don't like that. Why? I understand that, but that's art. Now we're talking art.
Nice
we're not talking.
Option.
Yeah.
Nice to have the option.
Yep. Absolutely. Phil got the 51
fast glass, but it's expensive and it's big and it's not easy to use.
Yep. Wide open, that is.
Yeah.
But that's just it. You know, people say, well, why get a 1.2 lens? You're going to have to, you know, use it at f5.6 or 5.8 or at 8 to get a in-focus portrait. You obviously don't understand how that works, how depth of field works with subject, background, and aperture. It's not one size fits all. There are so many ways to manipulate the photo by moving one of the three. So it'll be interesting. I'm going to shoot it at 1.2 most of the time. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm going to shoot it at 1.2 a lot just because I like that weirdo, you know, whatever.
It's nice to have the subject really stand out from the background and everything else.
Yeah. And the other thing is I can crank it up to 2.8. I can go, I can, stop it down to f8 and I'm right back shooting in the studio like everybody else shoots. So I'm not losing a thing by buying a 1.2 lens. Contrary to what they think that it won't be used, au contraire. those of us that want it will find all kinds of ways to use it wide open, even shooting flowers and stuff or whatever it happens to be. So it's going to be fun. I'm just hoping I can afford this thing when it actually gets announced. I'm afraid of the price, man. Whew.
I think it'll be dearer than the 50. The 85 will be dearer than the 50.
Yeah.
Usually is because it's more specialized than the 50.
Baptiste, how you doing? From France. All right. Welcome to the show. Glad you're here. It's going to be it was a wonderful New Year's. We broke a record in our live streaming. Gee, my knee about killed me. Almost 7 hours straight, but we had a great time. And we're really looking forward to what 2023 is going to bring. We've had enough weird years around the globe with COVID and everything else. 2023 has only got to get better, and that's what we expect. And we're expecting to have a wonderful year in the photography community, videography community, and just in life in general. That's what we expect. Let's hope we get it. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, the fast glass is good for events because a lot of events you can't use a flash. You need the fast glass.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's the other thing that I was saying. I know pro photographers that have studied and done what they need to do understand depth of field. So many people don't, and they speak as if they do. And when they hear about 1.2 glass, they make that stupid statement, well, only the eyelash will be in focus. Well, I'm sorry. Do you understand how this works? You understand that depth of field doesn't stay razor sharp the farther you get from the subject? Do you understand that? Do you understand subject to background depth of field? Do you understand any of these things? Don't make a stupid statement like that.
Hyperfocal distance.
Yes. I mean, I'm going to back away from the subject and I'll get the amount of depth of field I need for the face, even at 1.2. But what does that give me? It gives me even more blur or creaminess in the background. Moving her or him or whatever away from the background. So yeah, it just gets frustrating sometimes with people saying that. Well, but I think often, and this goes on in the photography community often, and I hate to say it, but it does, I believe, is jealousy. If I can't buy it, I've got to attack it. If I can't afford it or I refuse to buy it, I've got to attack it so everybody else can get on the hater squad. I don't understand that whole. I'm happy for everybody out there that gets what they want. I'm serious. I don't care what you're buying. Whether I can afford it or whether I can buy it or not, doesn't matter. I'm happy for you, which is again why I want the 2 to 600 to come out. I don't want that lens, but I want you guys to get what you want. And everybody in the photography community should. So, if you're attacking somebody just because you can't get it, you're just wrong. Be happy for them. So, and I do believe that goes on quite a bit. I saw it a lot in Nikon rumors years ago with the D4, the D5, even the D800, the D810, and the D850 because they cost a little bit of money, and people were attacking those. You don't need it. It's not going to do you any good. You're going to have to buy a new computer and all the attacks. Just because, and ask them, I'm not getting it. No, I'm not getting it. But you're willing to attack it. It's just out of jealousy. All right. Mini rant. I'll shut up now.
You've got to have at least one.
Yeah. Oh man. Now you're killing me, Phil. You're killing me. The 85 or the Z8 first.
I'll have them both, please.
Yeah, I want them both, but I don't think that's going to happen. Depending on when they come out, I may be able to justify it. If you give me a month between them, I can tell some tiny fibs and things like that to maybe get some help picking the other up. I don't know. I think common sense is
the 85 first.
Well, see, and for me, common sense is saying get the Z8 first because that's going to be out of stock longer than that lens will be. Now, I could be completely wrong, but I'm thinking that maybe that lens won't sell as much or as many I know it's going to sell like crazy, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be like Z8 sales. So I don't know. It's a tough question. You're making me think, Phil. You're making me think, and it hurts.
Just get them both. It's easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need fast glass for events because often you're not allowed to use a flash.
Yeah.
That's what I used to carry mine for. They weren't good lenses, the 1.2s in the old days, the old 50s and that, but you had to have them.
Yep. Just got back from Sammy's camera. My buddy just picked up Nikon Z5 with 24 to 200 kit, pouring cats and dogs, charging the battery now. He is orgasmic. First camera in his life, Nikon. Hey, tell him we all said congratulations. I know he's going to be happy. And 24 to 200 gives him plenty of room to play with. We were talking about that earlier. J-Rod was talking about what a good lens it is. So I think that's great. All right, folks, it's that time. I got to get moving. I got to get to work.
Well up now. Time to go to bed.
Everybody thank Mr. Roy for coming in the middle of the night and staying through the early morning till sunrise to be in here with us. I appreciate it, Roy, as always. It's always great
seeing you sit there by yourself.
Well, I got to tell you, it's amazing to me because how many times have you been on and we've looked at cameras and lenses and you still got plenty to go through that we've never seen. So I think it's great.
So I like playing with my lenses and collecting them and gathering them and taking more photos with them. I like a big choice of what I'm going to shoot with.
I think it's fantastic. And again, you bring so much, experience to the chat and to the channel and to the community with all that you have there. Well, there's something about that, that wisdom that comes with the age, and not just that, but being able to collect so many great lenses and cameras. And it's always fun when we're talking about something that visual. Well, just hang on a minute. Roy will go find one. All right. So everybody that's in the chat, hey guys, thanks for being in here today. This is our first, no 8 hours today, Greg. This is our first stream for 2023. I think it's going to be a fantastic year all around, photography wise and everything else. Hope you guys will continue to join us. Bring a friend, and maybe we can find others that we can bring into the fold. So, Roy, I'm going to step back for a second, let you say your piece.
Don't forget to click the like button to make Mrs. Chucko happy.
Yes, absolutely. And for those that don't know, I told this to others. She got me this for Christmas, so I would be reminded constantly.
But he's not wearing it, you notice. He's not wearing it.
Not yet. But please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you to my beautiful bride for buying me this shirt. And to all you folks out there, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. We will be back on Saturday night with the photo review. Information is in the description below. All you have to do is check it out there. By all means, if you haven't submitted a photo, do so. I will, road to 1,000 subscribers. We're trying, Baptiste. We're trying. We'll get there eventually. But I have a lot of photos that have come in over the last week. I haven't had a chance to get to it, but tomorrow I'm going to set aside time to put all the photos in a folder. And I'm also running a page of information for each photo that you sent. If you send a photo, I'm going to jot down the information that you've sent along with it, so that if you're not in the audience when we go through the photos, when your photo comes up, at least we'll have some background information as to how you took it, what you were shooting with, and everything else. So, all right. So that said, again, thank you all so much. Oh man, Chris, how could I pass up this comment? Just dropped off my Z9 back from Nikon for recall fix. Congratulations. And how long was it? How long did it take you? I'm just curious, Chris. I'm sure others will be too if they fall into that category. We'll give Chris a chance to respond there. But again, thanks everybody. And we got to take it easy sometimes because I've received some emails of people that they're not in the chat, but they're out there listening, especially on the Wednesday stream. They're at work or they're driving for work and they listen to the stream as we go along. And I really thank you guys too. That's one of the things I think is unique about doing the streams is you have a chance to sit back and do other things while you listen to us. And maybe look over here every now and then when Roy picks up another unique piece of photo equipment. All right. All right. I guess that's it. All right, guys. Have a wonderful rest of the week. We'll see you Saturday night for the photo review. Looking forward to it. Maybe we'll have some more information because CES kicks off in earnest in the morning. You guys keep your ears tuned. That's the one thing about peanut M&Ms. They get caught in your throat. All right, guys. That's it. I'm going to get out of here.